Hello, friends. It's episode 21. We are officially legal here at the Gaming Memories podcast. You could bang me and I would not be able to press charges for you for being underage. So that is an open invitation, I don't know if that's a correct way to open a podcast intro, because some of you might be like, what? You're old, you're married, and you're hairy. Why would I want to bang you? You wouldn't. Let's be real. You wouldn't, and you shouldn't. But technically speaking, that's all I'm saying. Episode 21, we are of legal age. And episode, I believe it was 1918 with Gotcha of Action G, a great producer. I cannot tell you how many people have messaged me. Oh my God, your intro was so funny. It had me rolling. I'm like, thanks, Becky. But the problem was I was blasted drunk for that intro. So, because I got such a great response for it, I am willing to sacrifice my body and my health for you, my congregation. So tonight, as we speak, I have had 4 White Claws. Yeah. There ain't no law when you drink the claw, bitch. Everyone gives me shit for drinking a White Claw. I don't care. You know why? It's tasty. It gets me drunk. Makes me happy. And I am willing to do that for you, for your ear holes, for your pleasure of your auditory nerves, your cochlea with the little hairs resonating with the frequencies, sending electrical impulses to your brain, translating into language, which is the scaffolding of your perception, and bringing to you the one true video game podcast, because I am duly anointed by the gods themselves. Miyamoto the Father, Kojima the Son, and Carmack the Holy Ghost appeared to me in prophetic holy vision, telling me to create the one true video game podcast by interviewing creative and interesting people about their favorite gaming memories growing up. And on this episode of the podcast, when it comes to interesting, at least to me, we have one of the most interesting guests I've had in a long time, Dayne Aristizabal. I probably butchered that. It's a Colombian last name. He is half brown, but he's the whitest half brown bro I've ever seen in my entire life. A professional fighter. I looked him up online. Professional record of 6-2, a bunch of jiu-jitsu wins under his belt, and he owns a martial arts gym, jiu-jitsu and MMA gym in Provo City, Utah, called Agema Jiu Jitsu. Dayne is, man, I don't even know how to say it. He's an all-around badass. In preparation for this intro, I was like, well, I knew he fought. I knew he was considered one of the best jiu-jitsu black belts. By the way, jiu-jitsu is a fucking hard word to say for gringos. My tongue stumbles at that, just stumbles over that word all the time. And people say, if you say jits, there's a slang for those who don't know Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Some people say jits. And some jiu-jitsu dudes get super butt hurt if you say jits. Well, I'm sorry, man. That shit is easier to say for me. I didn't grow up speaking Portuguese or Japanese fluently, natively, whatever. Jiu-jitsu. My freaking little kids can't even say it. Dad, are you going to go to jiu-jitsu? Dude, that shit is hard to say. Anyway, jiu-jitsu, jits, BJJ, whatever you want to call it. Dayne is the shit. He owns a gym. He's been in a bunch of fights. I looked up some of his fights online. Homeboy is a savage. I kind of knew he was a savage, but he's super nice and chill, like a lot of the dudes that get into martial arts. Of course they're chill. They've been to wars. They've been to legitimate war. They get choked out and knocked out all the time. Why wouldn't they be chill? All their aggression has been let out. Homeboy is chill as shit. And then I go online and I watch a bunch of videos and I'm like, oh, shit. Remind me to never piss that dude off. Anyway, he's really good at what he does. Jokes aside, he's really good at what he does. He's a great coach. He's a fantastic person. And on top of that, he's way into video games, specifically survival horror games. So if you're into like Resident Evil type shit, we talk a lot about Resident Evil. He's always been attracted to what I picked up from the interview, the darkness, the dark side. Because let's be real, the dark side has always been cooler. Like, I like the hero's journey. Luke finally destroys and beats Darth Vader. That's cool and all. It's a prolific sort of motif that has been played over and over and over again in all sorts of literature, film, TV, music, video games, etc. But The dark side is always cooler. Vader is cooler than Luke. His suit is cooler. His helmet's badass. His voice is badass. His lightsaber is cooler. The dark side powers are cooler. The dark side is always cooler. And Dayne has been attracted to the dark side since he was a wee little lad, listening to hard music. He played darker survival horror type video games, movies. We talked about all those things. You'll find a pattern. He sounds super chill, but there's a darkness brewing inside him, which is clear why he went and beat the shit out of dudes inside of a cage, because homeboy has some... If he was in Kingdom Hearts, he'd be like, what the fuck's that guy's name? Xenoheart? God, there's like a... Dude, that plot, by the way. Kingdom Hearts can suck all the D's. I never have ever felt so betrayed than the Kingdom Hearts 3. I bought the collector's edition day of, and I was really let down. I was super let down. Where was I? Oh, Dayne. He's got the darkness inside. He'd be a heartless, but he's not heartless. I don't know what I'm saying. He's not a heartless guy at all, but he definitely has some darkness in his soul, because when you see him fight people, and I'll put links to all the description of this shit, when you see him beat the shit out of people in the cage, you're like, oh, damn. Yeah, there's something going on there. But anyway, he's really nice to me. He's nice to all his students. He's a great coach. He's a badass. He's into video games. The interview was amazing. Remember, spread the good news of the Gaming Memories Gospel. Like, share, comment, tell your friends, tell your family. The gods will bless you. I say these things in the name of Miyamoto the Father, Kojima the Son, and Carmack the Holy Ghost. Enjoy the show, and amen, folks. All right, man. Dude, I have been trying to get you to come do a podcast for like 2 months. You're a busy man with a business and all that stuff.
I know. I've been wanting to do it so bad, man. I really wanted to do it. It's so hard to find time, so hard to get a second.
Especially because I still can't believe you're traveling from Salt Lake every day. For those of you who don't know, you're driving like an hour, 45 minutes an hour?
Yeah, an hour. Yeah, it's about an hour perfectly. Tonight I drove in rush hour, so it's like 2 hours, but
yeah,
normally it's just an hour. I drive in the morning, and
I guess that's not... There's probably a lot of people who commute an hour. That's pretty normal.
Yeah, especially in the West, I think. I think that's not too terrible, but I don't like it. It's not convenient for sure, And
but you're not doing the morning classes.
I do 1 day a week in the mornings.
So you got to super early 1 day a week.
Yeah, I'm not a morning person, man. I am absolutely not a morning person. I don't roll well in the morning.
Why you agreed to do a podcast at 10:42 p.m.
Exactly, man.
Awesome.
This is my time. This is when I'm waking up. That's when I feel the best. I'm a night owl.
Nice. All right. So for those of you who don't know, I'm not even going to attempt. How do you say your last name?
Aristizabal.
Aristizabal.
Yeah. You can just call me Dayne. That works, man.
Yeah, it's Dayne. Last name from where?
Colombia. Yeah.
That's a Colombian?
It's a Colombian.
You're half brown or part brown?
Half brown, man.
You're half brown?
Half brown, yeah.
Dang. That's what side of your family is brown?
My dad.
Your dad.
My dad's from Colombia, so.
Dang.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have guessed. Looks like the white genes won out for the most part.
The white genes won out for sure, man. Funny thing is, I have a cousin who looks like very similar to me, and my grandpa, but he's like all Colombian. He's very, very dark. My grandpa would call us milk and coffee. So.
Yeah, milk. I guess white on the outside, brown on the inside.
I'm the white cousin, the gringo cousin.
Would have never guessed. That's how racist I am. I assumed because you're white and your last name was crazy, it would be like some Czech or Slavic or...
Such a racist. Oh, no.
Is that a common? That doesn't sound Spanish.
Yeah, I mean, it's originally Basque, so from the Basque region of Spain. And then, I don't know when, but at some point my family immigrated to Colombia, South America, and it's somewhat of a common name in Colombia. The funny thing is I always spent a long time spelling out my name for everybody here. And I was in the airport coming home in Bogota one time, and the lady at the kiosk was asking me, she was like, okay, what's your name? And I said, Dayne Aristizabal. And she said, okay, spell it. And so I started spelling A-R-I. And she's like, no, your first name. And she had already written out, my last name perfectly. She knew how to spell it right away. So,
oh, you were taking surprise.
Yeah, so it's kind of a common name over there, somewhat, somewhat common, known name. But, yeah.
So
definitely
Dayne,
not common
Colombian
here.
last name.
Alphabet.
I met you because you're really good at jiu-jitsu and you own a jiu-jitsu school in Provo, Agema. But yeah, just introduce people to what you do. I don't know. I know you've had some fighting, and I know you just your background, your experience, all that.
Yeah, so I've been training jiu-jitsu, oh man, I don't even know, 16 years now, something like that, since I was a kid. Too long, but I love it. I fought professionally. I've competed in jiu-jitsu for years. Finally, it was time for me to open up my own gym, so we just opened up a gym over the summer, Agema Jiu Jitsu MMA. We're in the mall in Provo Town Center Mall.
Tell people what Agema is, because when I found out, I thought that was a Japanese. This is how terrible I am with words. I thought that was some Japanese name, and you told me it was not.
Understandable, man. No, it's Greek. It's Greek, actually. But, yeah, so funny story about that. I was trying to pick a name, and, I had this opportunity to open a gym, and I'd always wanted to open a gym, but I'd never really thought about what I'd call it, So I was kind of scrambling to find a name, and I've always loved, for jiu-jitsu, I've always loved the word attrition, because I'm kind of a science nerd. And attrition, like in geological terms, is like it literally means to grind or to wear down. And I think that's
slowly chip away.
Yeah, to slowly chip away, like in terms of like war of attrition. Or so I just thought that was perfect for jiu-jitsu. It's the grind. It's to wear down. It's to grind somebody. I thought that was such a cool name for a jiu-jitsu school. So I wanted to name my school Attrition. And actually, my LLC is still Attrition. And I was super stoked about it. And then one of my friends who's a business guy is like, no, what the hell are you doing, dude? You're an idiot. Attrition, like in business terms, is like loss. People associate that with loss. Like you do not.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
You do not want to be called attrition. So I was like, oh, damn, you're right, man. So, I respect this guy's opinion. And so I rethought things, and I went back to the drawing board, and I had to come up with a name like today, basically. I had to have it. So one of my fighters, Ursula, she's a Greek girl. I've always loved Spartan history and just like Spartan culture. I read a lot of Spartan books, so I was kind of asking her about some stuff, and she was like, you should call it the Agema. And I was like, what is that? What's the Agema? And she's like, the Agema were the Spartans' infantry's special warriors. They were like the special forces of the Spartans. So I thought that was a pretty cool name. Kind of has a ring to it, so
that is really cool. And I didn't even know. I mean, it makes sense when I hear it. Like, why wouldn't a military specialized was Sparta a city or a country?
It was a Greek city-state.
City-state.
So it was in the
kind of both.
Yeah, Greece was divided into city-states that were all warring with each other and very feudal. But Sparta was essentially a city-state of Greece. So
yeah, and why wouldn't a military specialized city-state have special forces? Because you just think, from a layman's perspective, I don't know a ton about history other than Spartans were the most badass Greeks, right? That's everybody knows that.
Yeah, they were badass.
I think everybody knows that they're the most badass, but
people
I never
know the
think
story
about
of
they would have special teams set aside. These guys do this. Maybe these guys are reconnaissance. These guys are infantry. Yeah, it makes total sense.
Yeah, I mean, you always have people who stand apart in any sport or military or anything. You always have, special groups that rise above the rest and are recognized as such. So
you said they're special infantry. That mean like frontline guys?
Yeah, I assume so. I don't know everything about it. I mean, I've tried to research it because it's the name of my gym, obviously, but there's a little bit of limited information. I've tried to find out what I could, but it's a little bit tough to find.
It's a sexy idea for a gym. So I liked the name a lot more once you told me that. I was like, now cool, it's so much sexier.
Yeah, for sure. And I kind of like names that begin with A and are just short and easy to remember, like Atos. Like for those of you who don't know, one of the biggest BJJ gyms in the world in San Diego, run by Andre Galvo, Atos. And To be honest, I've read what it means before, but I don't remember.
You don't remember?
I don't remember, but it's, it's an amazing gym that produces world champions. That's what I know about them. So it has a ring to it,
I have a good story about Atos.
Tell me.
For sakes of, in case people listen to, we have a good mutual friend that has a contract there, and they're really sticklers about their contract.
Oh, really?
And he had to do some shenanigans to get out of that contract, some forgery of some utility bills, and because they will hold you to that contract.
Mentioning no names, but that's one thing I don't do at my school, man. Everybody does the contracts. I do not do a contract, and I think so far it has really paid off for me.
Yeah, I didn't know that was normal because Lehigh doesn't do them either.
No,
and so I never knew. And then I started hearing
that's a very normal thing.
What's the big MMA gym? Wasatch, I think.
Wasatch Combat Sports. So that's where I taught. For them.
You were there. I
taught for them for a long time before I opened my own gym. So
they do contracts, and I guess that's pretty more normal than I initially thought.
Yeah, like most gyms do contracts, and if you want to get out of the contract, you got to pay a pretty hefty fee, and that's just kind of normal. That's kind of what's industry standard. When me and my wife were setting up the gym, we kind of made a decision not to do contracts and to be very lenient with people. If somebody falls on financial hardship or whatever, or doesn't want to train for whatever reason, I don't want them to feel like they're stuck. And
they're definitely not coming back if they have this bad resentment about a contract.
Exactly. And that's where we were. But now with this whole CV situation, the virus outbreak, I'm not concerned about it at all. My wife is losing her shit. She likes to stress. That's like her thing, man. She finds something to stress about. And right now, that's what it is. And so
that's where her focus is.
That's where her focus is. And she's like, what if nobody wants to come to the gym? What if everybody cancels their membership? What if we don't have anybody? How are we going to pay the rent? And I'm like, I'm just not concerned about it at all. As far as I'm concerned, it's an opportunity to buy stocks cheap. But
it will. So actually, my business partner and I have been talking about coronavirus for a lot. I promise we'll talk about video games at some point. But we've been talking about coronavirus, and I actually think you could. I think the economy in general could sag. Or
absolutely.
Maybe will sag a lot. We're like really bad case. But that's also is temporary.
Yeah.
And I think most people will be able to ride it out. And if you're in a good spot and maybe you have some capital to throw around, could be a time to make some cash.
Oh, yeah.
Some good investments.
Man. Airline stocks are so down, and any travel industry stock is just plummeted. Every stock is basically taking a hit. But travel industry is really taking a hit. So,
I have a trip to Hawaii at the end of this month, and I can relate to your wife. I have part of me can go hard with conspiracy. I can go deep. My brain can latch on, and I have to keep that in check.
Yeah.
And I did swing pretty hard and got a little paranoid about coronavirus. I got some gas masks out of my storage.
I see those.
I'm repped. I bought some water, and I'm not worried about like death, but I think I do stress a little bit about my kids. Like, they're young. And like maybe a really gnarly flu could fuck my kid up pretty bad.
I think they say coronavirus is worse for old people, and it doesn't affect the young people as much. So
really, I've also read that a lot of people are contagious with no symptoms. Yeah. Some people's immune systems are like, "Fuck you."
Yeah, well,
I don't care.
Yeah, that's a good thing out of bad, right? It makes it easily spread. Easy to transmit because you don't know you're sick and you go out.
I agree with you. I think that's most likely going to be more of an economic issue for most people.
Oh, for sure. China was shut down for a couple of weeks, and that's a huge superpower.
How much money they're losing every day.
Oh, yeah. How many goods are not being produced? How many people are not going to work? How many American companies get products from China and they're not going to be getting them on scheduled delivery or whatever, so it's definitely going to have rippling effects throughout the financial market that we haven't even predicted yet,
Here's the sexy idea with that, though. This is where some of the conspiracy theories come from. I don't know if your wife has got into this, but if the coronavirus is just, from what most people are saying, the flu 2.0, some gnarlier flu that has better spread rate, isn't that a bit of an overreaction for China? Why is so some conspiracy theorists are saying, why is China overreacting so hardcore if it's not that big of a deal?
Well,
and I'm dumb enough to be like, yeah, why? Why would they do that?
I mean, the flu fucking sucks for anybody who's had it. So, I mean, if you have another flu out there, that's just double the shittiness. And the flu does kill old people all the time, you know.
Kills a lot of people.
Kills a lot of people.
But you would never shut down your economy over the flu, even a gnarly flu. So if you're China, why are you shutting down the economy?
My thing is like, I don't know. I mean, call this conspiracy theory, but what the hell was China doing in that lab that, you know, that it got out of? Were they working on biological weapons? What the fuck were they doing? How did that happen? You know?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard similar things. I've heard Bill Gates and the Illuminati are behind it, and they want to reduce the population to 50%. That one's pretty fun.
Absolutely.
It's one of my. I think it's probably one of the funnest ones. Yeah. I also heard that this one was pretty good too. So I have some really good friends through the music industry. Some of them go deep in this world, and they'll usually start pinging me when something's crazy happening. And that's where I keep up with modern conspiracy theories and where they're at is through some homies. And I have one homie in particular that thinks it was originally a Canadian bioweapon. I don't even know where he gets this from, right? But somehow by looking on the internet, this is the conclusion he came to that it's a Canadian bioweapon that was stolen by the Chinese because they steal stuff, right? And then it gets back to China, but it backfires and releases on them. But that was actually the whole point. It was a honeypot planted by Trump in the U.S. to be stolen from Canada to blow up on China because Trump is like having this trade war. And he goes, fuck you, China.
Trump's not that smart.
I'm like, that does sound like a great movie plot. It sounds awesome. I would hope that's real. But, yeah, probably not.
I mean, I'm sure if it was real and all that happened, it would be like posted on the internet, you know?
Yeah, by user XX6969.
Exactly.
You grew up in Utah?
Yeah, grew up in Utah County.
You were south, right? South of here?
Yeah, Spanish Fork and Payson.
Spanish Fork, Payson. Yeah. Payson High?
No, I actually was homeschooled, man.
You were homeschooled? That's why you're so smart.
I don't know about that. Weird, maybe.
Homeschooled all the way from kindergarten up?
No, I was homeschooled like middle school, junior high. I was just getting really bad grades, had a bad attitude. I actually lived with my grandparents and my mom. You know, me and my mom lived with my grandparents. My grandpa was a retired BYU professor, and he was kind of bored, and you know,
I can see where
he was a scientist. He was a biology professor, botany professor at BYU for years, and so you know, I was just getting terrible grades, not getting a good education, had a bad attitude. So they pulled me out and homeschooled me. And
how did that? Did you prefer that? Did it turn things around for you?
I mean, I think homeschool's tough in the social sense. You don't get that social exposure, and sometimes even though high school or junior high are like bad experiences for a lot of people, it's a needed growing experience.
It's a character building experience.
It's a character building experience. And so that's something I regret not having more of. I mean, I still did have exposure to that, but maybe not the full experience.
Did you feel at that time you were missing out on social stuff?
No, at the time I didn't. I mean, it's only in retrospect that I'd say that. You know, I did stuff. I had friends. I'd go out. You know, but I think like I wasn't exposed to being in situations I didn't want to be in. If I didn't want to be at school or I didn't want to see somebody, I didn't have to be. You know, I could go home and chill and do my own thing. You were forced to deal with the
things you don't like about school.
Yeah, so my social interactions were exclusively positive, and I don't think that that's necessarily a character building experience or a good thing always. You know?
It's so funny you're saying that. Like a person who fights and does jiu-jitsu, and like, of course that's what you would say. Other people would be like, that's the moms listening. Your mom's probably like, that's exactly what I wanted. I wanted him to have positive experience.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
He's over here shitting on it like I didn't make my character good enough.
But no, it's like jiu-jitsu though. Like you can't always just be the mat hero, you know, tapping everybody out. Every once in a while, you got to have a bad day. You got to get your ass kicked a little bit, and it's good for you. It makes you better. So
well. My sense from knowing you is that you don't. If you missed out on some character building moments by not being uncomfortable and forced into uncomfortable situations, you've certainly made up for it. And I don't really get the vibe that you have a problem with the development that comes from exposures to those situations.
Well, I appreciate it. I think jiu-jitsu, honestly, was my saving
leveled
grace.
That out.
Because I started training when I was, 15, 16. I remember having my learner's permit and driving to the new gym that had opened. And, I had my grandma in the car. She was driving with me and just kind of discovering jiu-jitsu. And what an experience it is to discover jiu-jitsu and start training, and it's a constant barrage of ego smashing and rebuilding. So
I told myself I have to be careful to not turn this into a jiu-jitsu podcast.
Yeah, absolutely.
But what I'll echo is, there's you don't. I mean, I'm not even nowhere near as experienced, but that first day, expect that first, I don't know, maybe 6 months. In retrospect, it feels like a psychedelic experience. Like I don't even know what was happening. I would just kind of show up and be overwhelmed.
Oh, absolutely! It's like drinking out
for
of a fire hose,
3 hours,
right?
like just, and then your brain comes back and you're overwhelmed with information. You're fried. I would be like shrimping in my sleep, having jiu-jitsu dreams, like waking up with legs in triangles, and like bad sleep, and it just like it's very overwhelming.
Yeah.
And then it kind of levels off and you start having fun. But in the beginning, it's overwhelming, and then you have the whole day to kind of your normal work day, your family day to sort of like calm back down. Then you show up again, you're having anxiety on the way, and then the door shuts, you get in, and then all of a sudden you snap your fingers, 2 hours are over, you don't even know what's happening. You're like, but you feel, after it's all done and you're sitting around talking, you feel so good.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's a rewarding experience.
It's very rewarding. And you go, I don't even really know what's happening, but I feel good, so I guess I'll come tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
It's very overwhelming, yeah.
I think the addictive part is just the feeling of growth and accomplishment. You learn something new. You're a little bit better than you were yesterday, and that's a very addicting feeling.
I just had an epiphany. I know how to connect this. It's kind of like playing a video game.
That's exactly what I was saying. You read my mind, man.
Yeah.
What I think it was. What's the guy who wrote The Game, the dating book, The Game?
Oh, the pickup artist guy. Dang,
yeah, the pickup artist.
Is he the same guy?
Yeah,
as
he's the pickup artist. Yeah, he's the pickup artist.
I don't remember his name.
He wrote a really good book called Emergency. Also, Neil Strauss, is that his name? Am I wrong here?
I know him as the pickup artist.
Yeah.
That's
so
my best.
He said something that like fascinated me in one of his books. He was talking about, I think he was talking about one of those mechanical bowl machines.
Like the riding bowl
the
at the
riding
bar or
bowls
whatever.
that they have at the bar.
Yeah.
I thought that was only for drunk girls in like low cut tops, but
white chicks named Becca,
exactly,
with a short bob haircut.
But apparently, it's like somewhat competitive, and he got super into it. And there's like different levels you can turn the bowl up to. And he was saying one thing he said in his book is he was like, it's like all things with men, like video games and martial arts, where there's clearly defined levels, and that sense of accomplishment, it becomes very addicting. And I was like, oh wow, that's very true.
That is. So I know you played games. We've talked about Resident Evil. Did you get into games prior to martial arts for a similar thing? Did you play RPGs where you level up and get stats? Did that ever catch you?
I don't even remember. I don't know what came first, martial arts or video games, honestly, because I was a kid doing like karate and stuff before I ever found jiu-jitsu.
Oh, so you started really early.
Yeah, I started pretty early, and then, kind of fell away from martial arts for a while. But, I mean, I remember playing video games when they were like, remember playing Loom on the computer when I was a kid.
Loom? Loom?
Yeah, I don't know if you remember that game.
I don't.
It was like
Is that the first game you remember?
One of them, man.
One
it
of
has
them.
to be, yeah. It was
early Loom.
old game, man, on the computer. Like it was an RPG adventure game.
Was it point and click?
Yeah, I believe so. I think it was like you have to type commands actually.
Oh.
Like look here, do this. I mean, it's been so long, I don't remember that well, but I do remember it was called Loom. I remember that was one of the first video games I ever played. And then I remember playing like the first iterations of Fallout.
Wait, so first, for preference, you're quite a bit younger than me. What year were you born?
87.
87, so 3 years younger.
I'm almost 33. I'm coming up on 33 in a couple days here.
33. Okay, so the original Fallout on PC, I think, was...
Fallout 1.
Yeah, Fallout 1. I'm trying to think of the year. How old do you think you were when you got exposed to Fallout?
10.
Okay.
10,
so around
11,
10.
something. I don't know. Maybe a little bit older.
Dude, that's a... So you had a PC at home, obviously.
Yeah, my mom and dad were real, like, I don't know, they were techies, I guess.
That's interesting because almost all guests, the first memory is a console game.
Really?
Not a PC game, yeah. And Fallout is a very... what's the word? Adult game.
Yeah,
for a
sure.
10-year-old.
Oh, for sure,
dip his toes into for the first time.
For sure, man.
Dang, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even Fallout 1 with, the early graphics and everything, like, I'd like to go back and, like, play those games again and just kind of see what they're like, but...
Did you understand the premise of the game, or was just kind of playing around?
No, I was into it. I mean, I understood, the
Did it freak you out, the idea of nuclear war just ruining everything?
No, I was into it, man. I remember being stoked. I thought it was so cool.
This is, I guess at 10 years old, I did not stress about anything in the future. The joys of being a child.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, I mean, I just, I don't know. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was awesome, man. I've always kind of been attracted to that post-apocalyptic thing, all the way to adulthood. Like, I love zombie movies. I love George Romero movies. And
you think that is one of the things about this video game? This podcast idea is like trying to understand. I think there's almost a formula of what forms your taste. And because you were exposed to Fallout at 10, it's one of the early things that's like, it leans you that direction immediately from the get-go.
For sure, yeah. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, it leans you that direction. Kind of adventure, survival horror games, I mean, I remember playing Mario Brothers on, like, Nintendo and stuff,
Was that after
Nintendo
Fallout?
1. Probably.
Probably.
Yeah, hard to remember, but it was probably shortly thereafter.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, playing all the Nintendo 1 games, Contra, Fallout, Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, all those fun games.
Punch-Out's a cool. Do you remember how far you could get on Punch-Out? Which character?
Oh, man, I remember... What was his name? Mr. Soda Pop.
Dude! Soda Pop was the guy I could never beat. I never beat it. I never got to Tyson because I couldn't beat damn Soda Pop.
I think my older cousin could, like, play for me and get me to Tyson, but I don't think I could beat, like, I don't know, who is the fat guy? I think it was
King Hippo.
King Hippo, that's right. Yep. The fat guy, man. That's what I remember him as. But yeah, I don't remember how far I could get, but
did Fallout you had a PC at home. That's interesting because I think you are the first one that had PC. What other games on PC do you remember? Early games from that sort of same time period.
I remember playing. I loved this stupid game. It was just because I was a kid, but I remember playing early Monkey Island games. Have you ever played that game?
What? Say that again.
Monkey Island.
Oh, The Secret of Monkey Island.
The Secret of Monkey. Yeah, there's 7 or 8 of them.
There's a grundle of them, yeah.
Actually, like, just for, like, some nostalgia, I actually found one that is, like, available from the App Store on Apple, and I downloaded it and played it. And it was just kind of a nostalgic thing.
Yeah.
It's not, like, something I'd be super into now, but I remember loving those games when I was a kid. I was into it, man. So,
that's a classic point and click series. I think, on the phone, they've remastered most of those. I've seen ads for a while about Monkey Island 3 remaster, etc., etc.
Oh, that's cool, man. Maybe I should go back and have some nostalgia gaming again.
Yeah. I never, the point and click genre, I never played. I didn't have a PC till I tried like a lot of those games already when I was older and played a lot of other games. And I couldn't. There's a few that I got into because I like sci-fi and post-apocalyptic. There's a few. There's this one. I can't remember. It's like you play a little robot in a trash world, like Wall-E, the point-and-click adventure. I got into that one, and there's like a claymation one back from that same era. Why can't I remember it? Monkey Island was like pixel graphics, but there was I think Double Fine produced it. Skulls. So anyway, there's a whole. This is one area of video game history that I'm not super well versed in is the point-and-click genre, which was a big deal during that time frame, but then it died. There's really no modern point-and-click games. But for a while, it was the bee's knees.
Yeah, for sure, man. I mean, it was just, technology surpassed it, so
yeah,
all things move forward. But, I think it's nostalgic to a few of us who have played those or whatnot, but what console did you start on, man?
I started NES. Well, I do have a few memories of the NES, Mario and Zelda. I remember the Legend of Zelda being completely confused.
Yeah.
Like, wait, what? There's no level. Like, it's not just set. Like, I can go anywhere, and I don't know where to go, and I don't know what anything does, but I liked it.
Yeah.
It's just like dinking around. I never made it far, but I would just sit and dink around on Zelda. I never figured the game out. I was way too young, probably like 5. But my brothers were into NES. But it wasn't until my console for me was a Genesis. I saved up. I was old enough to understand games. And I would mow lawns, and I had a shoe box that I wrapped up in paper and drew like Genesis shit on it.
Yeah.
My parents told me if I saved up. My parents were pretty good about helping me but teaching me at the same time. Yeah. I think back now to this and my kids, I'm like, yeah, this is actually really smart what my parents did. They told me to save up like $80, which was at my salary, like mowing lawns and shit, was a long time. It took
a lot of money, man,
like
for
9
a kid.
months, just shy of a year to save up this money.
A kid in the 90s, that's a lot of money.
There's a lot of money, and they would make and I don't even remember how much. I don't even know if I knew how much it actually cost.
Uh-huh.
I thought I was buying it, but really what they were doing was making up the difference, and they just set a goal for me to hit, and
just to motivate you.
Yeah, to motivate me, and I put all my money in this shoebox, and the span of time went over Christmas, and I had this thought like they're gonna hook me up with Christmas anyway, but they sailed strong. My dad, I'm sure my mom wanted to, but my dad was like Mr. Discipline. My son will not be a bitch. He probably shut that down, and I didn't get it for Christmas. I was like, oh, they're serious. I got to save this cash up. But they bought me a game for it, Sonic 2.
Hell yeah.
So I had the game sitting there, and I would sit and just flip through the book. I read the book like 100 times over, just thinking about when I get my $80, I'm going to finally get this game. And I did it. I ended up getting the $80, gave them the shoebox. They bought the Genesis. So for me, that and Sonic 2 is like, that's a religious part of history for me. It was a big deal. I think that maybe we're talking about how things form. I wonder if that's why I ended up getting so into video games. If I would have just had it given it to me, maybe I would have been like spoiled and like, this is boring, this is stupid. But I worked so hard to get that first console. So then, from then on, it was like, I want all the games. So like, I put my blood, sweat, and tears. Whatever I can get my hands on, I want that Genesis game, and I want to explore all the options. So yeah,
I remember playing the early Sonic the Hedgehog, and then Mortal Kombat. Man, I was super into Mortal Kombat on Sega.
Yeah, because the Genesis version had blood.
Yeah,
SNES didn't. Those pansies.
I never had
those PC pansies.
What about like the console that never made it, Atari? Did you ever have a Atari?
Did I play the Atari?
Yeah.
No, I honestly wasn't really even aware of it. I had a guest on 2 episodes ago, Brett Weiss. He's like a video game, almost historian. Have you listened to Hardcore History?
Yeah.
Okay, imagine Dan Carlin, but he just is into video games. This dude is a badass at the highest levels. For those of you who haven't, check it out. And we spent almost the whole. I could only get like an hour of his time because he like writes books. He's just like super involved in the scene. But he knows a lot about pre-NES consoles. And I was aware of like the Atari. There was like the 1700, the 2600, and the like, 32. Maybe there's like 3 versions of the Atari, and that's all I really knew. But from I think he said 72 was like the first American home console. I don't remember what it was called. To right before the NES. Which was like a 12-year, there was like 29 or 30. So there was more than one a year new consoles coming out. And the Atari is like the one that a lot of people remember. I think I saw people like in the stores playing Pitfall on the Atari. It's like a guy swings on a rope and he's in a jungle.
I had a friend who had an Atari. I never had one, but I'd go over to a friend's house and I think he only had like one game for it. I don't even remember what it was. It was like a spaceship, like flying through these tubes. I have no idea. It's been so long. I just don't remember. But
that was just right before our era, and I didn't have any friends so all that retro. I'm also very unwell versed. In my mind, I think a lot of people you could say it's almost like BC and AD before Jesus, after Jesus, whatever. That's. The NES is kind of like what took, and he would agree, Brett pretty much agreed with me on this in the podcast, like, yeah, the NES is when, like, the home console became, like, normal.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of people had it. Before that, it was a little more, what's the word, clicky, or just not as mainstream.
Huh. The NES.
I don't know a ton about, anyway, I don't know a ton about pre-NES. I know the Atari, there's like a really famous story about this E.T. Remember the movie E.T.?
Uh-huh.
They made this game that was really shitty, and they printed like a bajillion copies, and they didn't sell them, and they put them all in this landfill. And then like 30 years later, it was a couple years ago on YouTube, this YouTuber like threw like it was almost like National Treasure with what's-his-face, Nicolas Cage, except he was trying to discover where this mound of like leftover E.T. video games
like
on the
valuable
Atari.
now, or are they just
They found it in like Arizona desert. They found like 40,000 E.T. video games,
Holy
Atari
crap.
E.T. video games. That number, I might have blown that number up, but whatever, it was a whole pile of these Atari video games buried in some desert, and that's probably the extent of my knowledge when it comes to Atari.
On that same note, I'm cleaning out my mom's house. I inherited my mom's house after she passed away. So I'm cleaning out her house, and I find my old Sega Genesis and all my games. And my
so you had a Genesis too?
I had a Genesis
nice.
too.
What did you play on Genesis?
Oh, man, Mortal Kombat and Sonic. Those are my games. I'm trying to remember. I mean, I was pretty young. I think I played a game called like Heady or something.
Heady?
Heady.
What kind of game was it?
Oh, man. It was like, it's hard to describe. It was like a guy who could throw his head and grab things. It was just really weird. But
was it a side-scroller?
I remember it being fun.
Like Mario, like 2D?
I think it was a side-scroller.
Right?
Yeah, I think it was a side-scroller. Yeah, I'm trying to remember what else I'd play. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's been so long.
Well, let me drill you on maybe some ones that I think you might have played.
All right.
Or just hopes, because also with PC as your first console being very rare, Genesis is very rare too. When I bring people on and I go through their it's usually Nintendo, Super Nintendo. That's way more common, at least so far. There's this game on Genesis called Dinosaurs for Hire. You play like a T-Rex, a Triceratops, but they're like Rambo, and they walk like humans, and they have guns, and you blow up other dinosaurs. That was a big one for me.
I don't remember that, but you reminded me of something. I'm trying to remember what the heck it's called. It's like you can pick. It's like Mortal Kombat but with dinosaurs. Like
Primal Rage?
Primal Rage.
Yeah.
I remember playing Primal Rage.
I loved Primal Rage. Did they have that on Genesis? I think they would have.
I thought it was Genesis that I played it on. I could be wrong.
It was an arcade game that got ported, and I do think it was ported to Super Nintendo and Genesis. Yeah, you could eat the little people.
Yeah.
If you had you could get health, and then the monkey would fart like the green cloud. I thought that was so dope.
I just remember playing with my little cousin, and there's like at certain points of the game it would go sudden death, and it would like start raining like volcanic ash out of the sky. And I remember my little cousin being like, "Is there such a thing as sudden death?" And I was just playing the game, and I didn't even think about it. I was probably 4 or 5 years older than him, and I was like, "Yeah, it's called a heart attack." And his mom got so mad at me because she's like, "Now he won't stop talking about how he's going to get a sudden death heart attack." And
you know what's crazy?
I got in trouble over that game.
You might have thought of that subconsciously, because I was going to bring up. Do you remember the health bar in that game was a heart, and it had like
I do remember
it
that.
had the vein that went out, and as your life got lower, the heart would beat faster and faster.
The heart would explode,
and then it would explode.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have remembered it if you hadn't said it. But
he probably fucked that kid up because he saw that heart explode, and he was like, "Oh shit!"
Yeah, I think his mom called my mom at like late at night for kids, which is probably like 11 or something.
Yeah,
and she's like, "Will you tell Dayne to let my son know that he's not going to die, sudden death, heart attack?" But whatever.
That's pretty good. All right. So, yeah, Primal Rage. Let's see if I can jar some memories. That's a good one.
Oh, I remembered another one. Bugsy.
Bugsy. The orange cat thing?
Yeah, he's like a cat thing. But I remember thinking that game was super fun. I don't know. Seems like a really weird concept thinking back on it. But
I didn't play, I'm aware of Bugsy, but I actually didn't ever play that one. Did you play, because that's a side scroller, did you play Vector Man?
I don't remember that. No, describe it to me.
That was Sega's sort of response to Donkey Kong Country. A little bit as far as graphical style. So Primal Rage was later. Primal Rage used the style where they made everything was claymation, and they would take snapshots of the claymation and then turn those into sprites.
Oh, wow.
And so it had this really cool look because there was real lighting from real lights just baked in. Donkey Kong Country did a similar thing, but they would use supercomputers to render like a simple 3D frame, and then they would feed that to the Super Nintendo, so it's just seeing like a sprite. When that came out, Sega didn't have a game that was using that style, and it was a big deal because it made things look awesome.
Yeah.
Vector Man came out, and he's like a dude that's all made of balls, and he can stretch out and move, and he shoots like shit out of his hands.
Yeah.
It's like a robot made of balls, and that was a way for them to get like high fidelity, because rendering a perfect sphere back in the day was a lower load. And so they designed this whole character around like perfect spheres linked together. They called him Vector Man, and it had, for the Genesis, arguably like the best graphics before. It was towards the end of the Genesis lifestyle.
I don't think I ever played that.
It's too bad. Comic Zone? Did you play Comic Zone? That's a Genesis exclusive.
I don't remember that.
That's like a dude who I showed someone this on the last podcast who's into pixel art and had a really good pixel animation. And it was a dude who like was a comic book artist, and he gets sucked into his own comic book in the beginning. And the whole game, instead of being levels, you can go up, down, left, right, and they're comic book frames.
Oh, cool. Huh.
And that was a big one. I thought was really cool. I did do the Mortal Kombat because it had blood, and that was cooler than my friends with the Super Nintendo. I did Cyber... We talked about this in the past episode. I can remember. Cyber Assault. It's like a side-scroller. Oh, you probably played Did you play Streets of Rage?
No, I don't remember.
No?
What is Streets of Rage?
That was, did you ever play an arcade game or a Super Nintendo game called Final Fight? It's like a beat 'em up.
I don't think so.
There's a whole genre. I'm sure you've played a beat 'em up back in your day. Did you play the Simpsons arcade game?
Probably.
It's like, try to think of any game that, it's like side scroller, but you can move up and down, and all you do is beat enemies up. You just punch them. So there's like the Simpsons arcade game, the X-Men arcade game was a beat 'em up. Streets of did you play Double Dragon?
Never. No.
Dang, I'm trying to think. There's so many beat 'em ups. I'm trying to remember what would be one that you might have played. It's a very popular arcade game format as well. Turtles. Did you play Turtles?
I played Ninja Turtles.
Okay, did you?
Yep.
The one in the arcade where like the building's on fire, first level?
I don't remember that. I remember playing it. I think it was on Nintendo.
That's the old school Turtles.
Yeah.
The Deathly Turtles.
I remember I'd always get stuck like on some water level.
Yes!
Swimming through water.
The dam, bro. You had to swim through the dam and dodge the electrical...
Yeah, the
electrical eel or like plants.
algae or whatever. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. And there's like a current trying to wash it. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah,
there was an old school Jaws too on Nintendo.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
I had forgot about that. There is a Jaws on the NES.
Yep, I remember playing.
Oh
that.
yeah, that's a good one.
You know, I think my earliest video game memory of was not me playing, but I remember when I was just little kid, too young to play video games. I remember my mom and dad playing Bomberman. They were college kids, and they just played Bomberman like crazy, man.
Do you remember what they were playing it on?
Nintendo One, man. NES. So.
Bomberman. I didn't know Bomberman. I think it is originally like an old arcade game that might have been on like the Ataris and shit before Nintendo.
Before Nintendo, huh? I don't know. Yeah, I think I played it some when I was older, but I don't remember it
There's a
super well.
Bomberman on 64. Nintendo 64 that I played.
64, yeah.
But I think they're all kind of the same. That's the one to make sure, like, you drop the bombs and it goes in a grid, up, down, left, right, in the fire, and you kill things.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a popular franchise. It's been around for a long time.
Still around?
Still around. They're still making Bombermans.
I had no idea. I'm out of the loop, man.
It's good shit. Do you play any games right now? I know you're playing Resident Evil 2 remake.
I'm done with. Just finished it.
You finished it?
Maybe last week. Yeah.
What'd you think?
Amazing, dude.
Amazing.
It was really fun. I mean, it was an awesome reimagining, and it's just super fun. It was. I don't think I would have that much fun playing the original. Just because maybe it moves a little too slow, not the best graphics, whatever. But this was a great feeling of kind of a good mix of nostalgia, a lot of the original elements, plus modernized. Yeah. So it was really cool, man. I really enjoyed it. I made a mistake though. I was telling you, I played it on hardcore, and
Oh, you went all. All out.
I don't really have the time, man. I don't like I don't like watching the YouTube videos and everything, but I had to, man. I was so stuck. I wasn't going to make it through otherwise. I had to figure some stuff out, and I mean, I don't have time to sit there and play all day long anymore. But
that game's actually, I beat the original Resident Evil 2 a bunch of times.
Oh yeah.
This one, I kind of, speaking of putting yourself in uncomfortable situations, I bitched out on this one. I got pretty far. And Mr. X appears when the helicopter crashes. He starts stalking you, and I made it probably like another 3 hours.
Those fucking footsteps, man. They just stress you out.
It got to a point where it was like, okay, I play video games at the end of the day after training, usually before bed.
To relax.
And I'm like, I'm just coming home, and then I'm paying money and spending time to have a panic attack.
Yeah, that's a pretty good description of it.
I don't know if I want to keep playing this game because it's so well done as far as horror goes, but it was the balance of stress and anxiety to fun was so overwhelming.
Oh, yeah.
That I'm like, you know what? I've already proven I'm not a bitch in other places. I don't need to beat this game. So I gave up. I need to go back. I think I've also read, though, once you figure Mr. X out, like the AI, that he actually becomes kind of simple and dumb.
I would agree with that. Yeah. Even on hardcore, you just got to stay ahead of him. He's always following you around. He never really lets you relax. But there's you learn which rooms he won't come into.
Yeah,
you can kind of go in those rooms and wait for him to go away, and so it does become a lot more simple. But every once in a while, he's somewhere you just don't expect him. You go through a door and he's right there. So that's a little stressful, but.
Are you going to get have you seen the trailer for Resident Evil 3 remake?
It keeps coming up on my feed, I haven't watched the trailer.
The algorithm knows.
Yeah, the algorithm knows.
Watch.
Well, I've searched enough on there for Google that it knows what I want, but I'll definitely end up playing it. So
that one, I think I'm going to play. I never beat 3 on PS1. I beat Resident Evil 1 and 2 on PS1, but I never played Nemesis on PS1. Partially because my parents started cracking down on ratings.
Yeah.
And so the Resident Evil, that got kicked out real fast.
My mom was she was pretty chill with everything except for Grand Theft Auto, man. Ooh. She did not like Grand Theft Auto. That was immediately taken back to Blockbuster and
Is it because we've talked about this before? There was a lot of news stories about Grand Theft. Like it was on the local news. This video, apparently local video game, you can take a prostitute, have sex with her, get money, or get your health back, and then kill her and take your money back, which is true. You definitely can't do that.
I think she walked in while I was killing the prostitute and just saw a little too much. No, I don't think she read any news article. I think she walked in and kind of saw what the game was about. Saw me steal a guy's car or something.
Yeah,
and I was like, "What the hell is this game?" But no, she was pretty chill for the most part. Like Resident Evil, horror games, she was all cool with that. So
was it Grand Theft Auto 3, the first one on PS2?
Oh man, I don't even remember. Because I never owned the game. I remember renting it.
Yeah,
I remember renting it, and then I think a friend might have brought one over at some point, and she sent him home with the game or something. It was not well received, but
yeah, that one was very common. I think it was Vice. So there's 3 of them on PS2 that they all got quite a bit of negative press about the adult content. There's Grand Theft Auto 3, which was you play as Tommy, like this Italian dude. Grand Theft Auto 2 is like the 80s Vice City. Everything's like 80s vibe. And then San Andreas, you play as CJ, this black dude from the hood. And that one had a lot of drama because apparently there was this infamous hot coffee mod. It was like a sex scene that got taken out of the game. Like you couldn't actually access it from the game, but through glitching the game by you doing something with coffee, and it's the same thing speedrunners do when they glitch a game to make go through faster and get through a wall.
Uh-huh.
Somehow you can glitch the game and get this scene to play that originally was cut.
A sex scene,
and it's a sex scene, and that got all this crazy.
Oh, yeah.
My parents saw that on the news, and I think it was the third one. I had been playing Grand Theft Auto quite a bit, but my parents were. They were hardcore on the ratings, but I learned if I got good grades, they stopped paying attention.
Found a loophole, man.
It is a loophole, and I remember preaching to homies, bro, it's not that hard to just do your homework. Just get it done, and you're gonna be able to hang out and do more shit. I'm telling you, because you come home with straight A's, they're like, oh, they just okay. You must be up to you. Can't be up to no good. You got straight A's.
Yeah.
It makes a statement, and they just stopped paying attention. But my dad saw that shit online and came down, and I wasn't even playing it, and he saw, you have Grand Theft Auto, right? I think I've seen you play this. There's a game called Grand Theft Auto. I just saw it on the news. It's like, oh no.
Uh-oh. It's time to hide it.
Yeah, then it got taken away, and then they cracked down quite a few times on that shit. They were really anal about movies too. And when the rating system came out, I lost some games retroactively.
Oh man!
Because when I first got them, there was no ratings, right?
Yeah.
But then when they came out, my parents were like, "Oh, we're so happy because we've always wanted that about games," and so then they just looked up all my games, what the rating was, and I lost some games. It was rough times for me.
Oh man! Yeah.
So you had obviously. I think so. You must have had a PS2 if you played a Grand Theft Auto, because the PS1 Grand Theft Auto was a top-down shitty graphics. I don't think it would have offended anybody.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I had a PS2 for sure.
Yeah.
I think I skipped PS3.
That makes sense. I think that's the lowest selling PlayStation console of all time.
Yeah, but
I think that one's the lowest. So you went Genesis. Well, you PC. Genesis. Did you have a PS1 in between?
I had a PS1, yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, I had a PS1.
This is my favorite area. This is my the Genesis was my first console, but I was younger. The PS1 for me is
So I played Resident Evil 1.
It's like the golden era
of
gaming for me. What did you play on PS1?
Resident Evils. Obviously.
The Resident Evils.
There was a game I really liked called Treasures of the Deep. Did you ever play that game?
Treasures of the Deep.
It was like a submarine game. You're going on these underwater adventures.
I did not play it, but I know what you're talking. I remember the box art.
It's really fun, man. I really enjoyed that game.
Interesting. Definitely the first person that's brought up Treasures of the Deep.
Yeah, it was a fun game, man. I'm trying to remember what else. What else did I have? Oh man, yeah, I'm drawing a blank. It's been a long time.
The Resident Evils definitely stand out the most.
Yeah, for sure.
Your
I
parents
loved those games.
totally chill about that?
Tomb Raiders. Like
Oh, yeah, Tomb Raiders.
Tomb Raider was awesome. Yeah, I think. What was on PS1? Just 1 and 2.
Ah, man, I think there might be 3 Tomb Raiders. My memory is the first one, and the part that stands out to me of that first Tomb Raider is, I don't know if you remember fighting the T-Rex.
I don't remember.
There's a part where there's a T-Rex, and just the scale, I had never seen, like, and I'm like, whoa, this thing is huge, and it freaked me out. It felt like a real T-Rex, and obviously Lara Croft was stacked, even in her triangle boob days, and that's pretty legit for an internet less.
Go all grandma's boy.
What?
You go all grandma's boy.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, Lara Croft. I played the first 2 on PS1, but there's a whole grundle of Tomb Raiders on PS2. Then they have the reboots out now.
Yeah.
I think there's 3 of the reboot ones, and I haven't played any of those.
I haven't played them either. I thought about it the other day. Maybe I should play Tomb Raider again. That was a fun game, but
I've heard they're good.
Really? Yeah. I'll have to give it a try.
I played the first of the reboots like 6 hours in. I got kind of far. Did you ever play Uncharted?
Yeah. Actually, that's the first game I bought when I bought my PS4.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you get the collection and play all of them?
No.
Or Uncharted 4?
I don't even know. 4. Looking for the...
It's the PS4 one that you got?
Yeah, I believe.
That's Uncharted 4 something... It's the last one. Is that the one where I think you start out in a boat in the storm at the very beginning?
Sounds
the first
about
mission?
right, yeah. Sounds about right. Yeah, I think
there's a flashback mission where you play like young Nathan and he escapes the orphanage.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the one.
Yeah. That one's a badass.
Yeah, I had really a lot of fun with that, man. That was the first game I played when I bought my PS4. And I took a few years off of gaming. PS4 was kind of my first step back in probably 4 or 5 years, so.
What have you played on PS4 this far?
The Resident Evil 2, Uncharted, some Medal of Honors. I'm trying to remember what else I have. What's the game? It's exactly like Fallout, but it's like medieval times. Skyrim. Yeah, I played Skyrim. Yeah, Skyrim was fun. I mean, it was a little too involved for my time limitations, I guess. But, yeah, man. My students just bought me a game, actually. They're like, oh, you're going to, I don't know. I'm not super up to date on
what game is
gaming now. I forget. It's a zombie game because I knew I liked Resident Evil, and they're like, you got to play this game. You got to play this game. So for Christmas, a couple of my students pulled together and got me a game.
I'm trying to think of zombie. It might Last of Us?
Last of Us. That's what it is. Yep. That's what it is.
I challenge you have to play that game.
Oh, I'll play it for sure, man.
You have to play that game. That might be... There's it's hard to say what, just like jiu-jitsu, who's the greatest jiu-jitsu athlete of all time. There's no such thing. There's no such thing as greatest video game of all time.
Not a thing you can put a number to, right? So,
but if you really just want to be stubborn and try to name greatest video game of all time, I think Last of Us would be in the discussion.
Wow, yeah.
It's really, it's a PS3 game actually. Uh-huh. It's remastered on the PS4, so it's going to be a little dated as far as graphics and maybe some gameplay elements. But the I don't want to you're not super up to date, so you probably haven't been spoiled on it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you don't know anything going. Good. Nope. You don't want to know anything going into
All right.
It has arguably one of the best intros of a video game. The opening segment kind of sets. Unravels what this game's about and sets the tone in a way, especially in gaming at the time. Uh-huh. Now it's not as groundbreaking because it's not as new.
Yeah.
But I still think it's going to be good. I don't want to hype it up too much, but at the time, the opening section finishes, and I just was already kind of tearing up, crying, and this is an adult game, not adult naked and drugs and adult themes, dark.
Yeah.
And then The ending is like the new Last of Us is coming out pretty soon, which you should probably play the first one because the new one's going to be dope as shit.
Yeah.
The ending is like an ending that is still talked about. Like I can't ruin anything. A lot of people listening, yeah, it's just I don't want to ruin it. But the ending is it makes you think.
Oh, wow, you've built it up, man. I'm excited now.
Yeah, and I might have overhyped it, but it's one of the it's like that, the new God of War, probably the new Last of Us, as far as at least when it comes to like story driven games.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, it's the performances, the themes, the dialogue, how the world is fleshed out. There's some weird gameplay elements, like let's say you'll use a ladder a lot, like to the point where you're like, oh, I've done this ladder thing. It's like they repeat some puzzles. It's not perfect, but. Yeah. Man, you got to play that game. And you love post-apocalyptic.
I love it, man. I like adventure games where there's puzzles to solve and things to work through, you know.
It's a mix of action. So, it plays like a cover shooter. Have you played maybe Gears of War?
I've never played Gears of War. Yeah, I had a lot of friends that were super into it, but I never played it.
No. It's essentially a stealth cover shooter. It's more stealth based than it is action because you're scavenging, trying to survive. Like it's like the end of the world zombie apocalypse. What I like about that game is their twist on the zombies. This doesn't ruin anything. Instead of being a regular zombie outbreak, it's the result of a fungus.
Yeah. Oh, cool.
And it's based on. I don't know if you listen to Rogan. He harps about this all the time. That fungus that like takes over praying mantises. And gets in their brain and makes them like get in the water and kill themselves and drown, and then it grows. Yeah, it's like a spin on that. It's a fungus that takes over and it gets in people's brains.
That's
and then
really
it makes them crazy, and then they grow weird shit. And there's a whole. They thought of like a whole, almost like ecosystem of how this fungus, and that plays into the gameplay elements. In certain areas you can't breathe, and it's pretty dope.
Yeah, that's really interesting. What is that? I mean. It's kind of like in the cordyceps family, right? That fungus. Yeah, that's really interesting. I've heard Rogan talk about that before.
Yeah, I think you'll like it.
Yeah, that's really cool.
And they're not because of it. It's not like your regular zombie. Like there's some of them they call the screechers or whatever. So the fungus some of them it will grow to a certain point where it like replaces the person's head and their head is grown out and they can't see. But they use echolocation, so they screech, and then based on like what they hear, and so the stealth, you don't have to worry about line of sight, which a lot of stealth games play on. You have to worry about audio. Line of sight doesn't matter because they can't see you; they can only hear. And so then some enemies can see you, and then other ones are using echolocation, and they mix it up.
That's kind of cool. So you can't make much noise. That's kind of like how Resident Evil was. You know, there's the Resident Evil 2, the remake. There was the what are those?
Lickers?
The lickers, yeah. The lickers
Very
can hear you.
Very similar to the licker.
And then Mr. X, he can hear you also. If you walk quietly, he won't catch up to you as fast. So
I would say, they have an enemy really similar to the licker.
Interesting.
And then what they'll do is they mix it up. So you have like human enemies, certain fungus enemies, and maybe like some licker type enemies, and they just throw you in constantly different variations of enemy combinations. And it forces you to really like stealth action, like go back and forth and think about it. I think so. The gameplay is pretty fun. The puzzles are decent. The story's amazing, and the new version again comes out this year, just in time after you beat.
Very cool.
Yeah,
just in time.
We'll have you back on, and I'm going to follow up with.
Yeah, we'll follow up, man. I'll get to work.
I would love to talk about the ending of that game. It'd be interesting. It's just interesting to hear anyone talk about the ending of that game. It's really. Have you ever seen a movie or a show where there's no clear good or bad guy, and they're very well at like explaining everyone's motivations, and even though they're doing bad things, you understand why they're doing bad things, and it's hard to know what's right and wrong.
It's hard to pick a side. Yeah, it's not cut and dry. Yeah, I like that though. It makes you think. You know, it's more like real life. You know.
Did you? So you had PS1. Then you had PS2, it sounds like. You took a break, skipped PS3.
I had an Xbox for a little while, too.
Did you get into Halo? A lot of guys get into Halo.
I played Halo, but I wasn't super into it, mostly just because I sucked at it. I had a couple friends that were like super into Halo, and they just kicked my ass so bad. I remember playing was it Modern Warfare on?
That's a very popular shooter.
It's really fun, but there were like the challenge levels, we'd all get together and play together on our console, but I like just playing alone, playing through the levels, and I think you could get like a star rating system.
Yeah.
You get like 4 stars, and you have like the highest score on a level or something, and it was difficult, man. It was really hard playing the computer. But yeah, I had fun with that, and that was kind of like that was while I was fighting professionally, and so.
So you would game even while you were fighting.
It's kind of my way of relaxing. And dude, we all would. So Ramsey Nijum, Court McGee, myself, Steven Seiler, we would all get together and just play video games after fight team. We lived right behind the gym. Several of us lived together. Another couple of them, our fight team members, lived, just a couple doors down in apartments. So we'd just get together and have.
Who was King Kahuna at video gaming out of the group?
Hard to say, man. I don't remember, man. I remember Court was super into it, though. Like, he would play till all hours of the night. Court was into freaking Medal of Honor.
Is he the most competitive?
Hard to say. I don't know. I'd get burned out on just the
monotony.
Duels, just the monotony. I'd be like, and even when I lived out in California, I remember Ramsey and Court and a guy named Danny Gunn would come out and they'd stay at my house. I lived on the pit compound with John Hackelman, and I lived in this kind of little house off to the side, and they'd just come play video games for hours all through the night, man. And at some point, I'd just get up and go to bed. I couldn't do it as long as those guys. I didn't have the stamina, but I think it's a good way to relax in fight camp, and kind of get your mind off the fight and whatever else, all the stress of training for a fight. But
I didn't know. Times, so for a period of your fighting career, you lived in California. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I moved out for probably a year and a half, a little over a year. I lived in San Luis Obispo County in Arroyo Grande, and I ran John Hackelman's gym. I was the head instructor at the pit headquarters, Arroyo Grande, and I lived on the pit compound. So for those of you who don't know, John Hackelman is world famous MMA coach. He coached Chuck Liddell. He's coached, Glover Teixeira, a bunch of really famous guys. He's one of Court's main coaches, but he has his gym in Arroyo Grande, and he has his house up in the woods above Arroyo Grande, and it's kind of just this it's hard to describe. It's just it's just this backwoods training facility out in the middle of nowhere, and he's got this cage that he built out in the woods, and he's got all sorts of torture implementations all over, just laying around his driveway. And so you go over there and he just works you to death, just has all these terrible workouts for you to do and has hard training, and it's kind of cool. It's like the Karate Kid time of my life.
Yeah.
So
there is a magic to kind of run down, beat up training.
Oh, absolutely. And being out in the woods in the middle of nowhere, and there's this dusty old cage outside, and you've got this world famous coach that's kind of hard on you and a great personality, John Hackelman, having you hit mitts and do wheelbarrow pushes up his driveway. He had these weighted wheelbarrows, and he would he'd be like, you have to get a wheelbarrow, and it has to be your walking weight, not your fighting weight. So I have to get a wheelbarrow that was 175 pounds, and then he'd have us do these races. He'd have sprint races with this 175 pound wheelbarrow up his super steep driveway that was quarter of a mile long, and just terrible workouts you'd have to do.
How good of shape were you in then compared to now? It blows my mind how anytime I've rolled with someone who used to fight MMA, and I'm like, this is you, after you've gotten, and you still freak me out.
Oh, man. I mean, I was in a lot better shape than I am now. I consider myself very out of shape right now, but yeah, I mean, when you're training for fighting, it's almost to the point, you have to say where's the point when this is good for me and bad for me.
Yes.
And
do you feel you maybe went overboard?
Oh, absolutely. I think absolutely. Like those wheelbarrow pushes I was telling you about, I think I permanently damaged, some discs in my back. I have bad bulging discs in my low back, and
I know you have some back problems. Yeah,
I think I have that exercise to blame for much of it. And I was talking to one of my pro fighters tonight. Mitch.
Yes.
Mitch is
awesome. He seems very aware about how to do everything smart.
He's very aware. And there's more information than I was fighting. I mean, it hasn't been that long, but things have progressed so much. There's just more information. People are smarter about how they're training. They're taking care of their bodies better. And we were talking about some of his upcoming fights, and he may have an offer in 4 weeks, And so I was like, man, okay, how do you feel about a short training camp? And he's like, oh, I'm in a baseline of fitness. I don't want to go through a super long camp. Like I'm done with those super long camps. Like super long camp is just hard on your body. And I was like, yeah, you're right, dude. Like, where do you pass that point of diminishing returns?
Yeah.
Where is it that I'm just breaking down my body, and where is it that I'm peaking? And you have to be really in tune with your body to know where that line is. And I think that Mitch is one guy who knows his body really well. He pays attention. He does the research. He's very well educated on that stuff. And I think that industry-wide, that's kind of where fighters are going, is just being a little bit smarter, where before it was kind of an old school mentality, like you just got to grind it out. And if it hurts, you push through it. And if you're injured, you push through it, whatever, But I think you're going to see fighters having longer careers and healthier careers moving forward. Anyway, that's what I hope.
Yeah. I've delved into the information in that world a little bit, mainly because of jiu-jitsu. I was like, well, if I want to do this for a long time, and I went from no problems ever. Like my body never hurt in any way, shape, or form, ever. I lifted and ran. That was I had been lifting and running. I did have some knee problems from running, but as soon as I should take that back. I did have knee problems from running, but other than...
How far were you running? Like, were you a distance runner?
It wasn't like a hardcore distance runner. It was anywhere from... I would smoke weed and run, like at night.
Perfect.
I basically got into it to lose weight, because this is a long, crazy... I was like the last pick. They say like the last pick for kickball?
Yeah.
Well, this is the same situation, except for I was in a house of dudes that lived, like 6 dudes that lived together. And a girl came, and she would say, what would we say? She was thirsty. We could say this. And she kept trying to get with each roommate and getting shut down. And she ended up, and I saw this going down, but I was like playing video games in my room. And like, there's always girls coming and going. There's a house of 6 dudes, right? There's always people coming and going. I noticed it, but then I noticed her try to get with a roommate who I considered lower than me on the totem pole, but she went to him first and then came to me last, and I like called her. I was like, I know what's up, and like, I'm last pick, and we kissed for a second, and she said never mind and left. I think she was so disgusted by me. Anyway, it was like a wake up call, so I got into running deep. I just like woke up, started running. I was always lifting weights. I started lifting weights because I went and sold alarms, and all the dudes with the weights.
Yeah.
We sell alarms. So I just did it because it got me into it. But I trimmed down, and then I got way into running. And my ritual, kind of like what jiu-jitsu is now replaced, is it was like my nighttime thing. Like, it kept me anchored. I would smoke weed and just run and run. Some days it was long, some days it was little, and it was like meditation. But I'd say at the peak, when I started having knee problems, was selling alarms in St. Louis, and I was doing like 7 to 11 miles a day. But I think the biggest problem was it was all on concrete or asphalt.
Yeah. And were you focused on like technique at that point?
Not
like
at
how
all.
your
I was
foot,
just running.
Yeah, you were just pounding pavement.
Just fucking run, right?
Yeah.
Smoke weed and run. And I got addicted to the high, right? Get to that point where you're like getting this weird delusional, and I started having knee problems. I would wake up and go down the stairs in the morning to the sales meeting, and I'd be real stiff, and it would take me like hours, like during the day, to like get my knees, and I'm like, but then they'd feel fine.
Yeah, you loosen them up and you feel okay.
Yeah, and I would go running that night and feel fine, and then until one day my knees locked up, and I had to call someone to come pick me up. It just locked up, and I sat down on the sidewalk and was just like, dude, I can't move. And then I laid off for a couple of days. We went and saw a movie, and my knee had locked up in the movie, but I didn't know. Like, it was just sitting, and then I went to stand up, and like I couldn't.
You're stuck. Yeah,
it was stuck, and it was like stuck. Like I would, and they wouldn't move, and so I stopped running. But yeah, I don't even know why we were talking that shit about freaking running. Why did we get here? How did we get to running?
I have no idea.
I have no idea.
Just go with it, man.
Oh, you're talking about your body, breaking down your body. Oh, yeah. So I was saying I had no problems. I take that back. I had run, but as soon as I stopped running, I took a break. I got back into it with a knee brace, my worst knee, and I ran on grass. And I continued to do that all the way up until I got married. I was running all the time. I did the music label with my friends. We run all the time. Then I switched to jiu-jitsu. So other than but then my first year of jiu-jitsu, I tried to still lift weights every day, do jiu-jitsu most days. Yeah. And I went from no problems to shoulder, neck, back, hip, inside hips, outside hips, lower back, upper back, my left side of my shoulder. I would have these like I would be like watching TV, and it would just, I'm sure you've had this because you did crazier training. I would just like, and then I would get like a shock or a pain. Boom, my elbow would like freak out, and then it would go away.
Just have this
like, what was that?
Crazy cramp.
What was that? Then the next day I'm like moving, then all of a sudden something crazy would happen. And that's why I got way into stretching, and I'm always stretching. It fixed all that for me.
That's good. We've talked about this before. I need to stretch more.
Yeah.
I hate stretching. And I think smoking weed would probably facilitate that. But
it definitely helps. There's a pattern with me. It's smoking weed and doing something physical. That combination, it was running, then it was jiu-jitsu and stretching.
Do you think you'd ever run again to kind of like supplement your jiu-jitsu, or is it just a time thing?
I've done sprints a few times, but the problem I have with running, which is also what I think, if I ever get hurt, I guarantee I'll quit jiu-jitsu and never come back.
Oh, man.
Because I don't like
that.
I go to try to run, and I'm so not where I used to be, and I remember what my performance was. Yeah. And the thought of like trying to work all the way back up to that, and I get really discouraged, like, dude, I ran what was my time again on that mile? And damn, I'm disgusted with myself. So we're going to pretend like that's not real. I'll just keep doing more jiu-jitsu. I have tried to run a few times, but I've noticed my shins and ankles. I think it's because I have a day job where I sit.
Yeah.
This is something people don't talk about. Like this, I know the sitting is killing me, and I've been doing, I got the barefoot shoes to try to help with my feet strength, and have no support, and help me relearn running better on my toes.
Yeah.
Instead of my heels, keep my knees okay. Yeah. But and even though I squat, I do the kettlebells, I do squats, I do lifting, I've been doing more stand-up stuff, also the jiu-jitsu and passing. You get a lot of my legs get a workout, but I think sitting ruins the stability in your knees and your shins and your ankles. Because when I run, I don't get tired, but my shins and my ankles and my hips start
conditioned to that.
It's not something's not right.
Yeah, there is something to that. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I feel it in my back too. I mean, I think a lot of people have back problems from sitting.
It's from sitting, yeah.
And I mean, we talked about my commute. I drive a long ways, and I kind of, maybe I'm not sitting with the best posture or whatever, but yeah, I feel like half the time I get to the gym to work out, my back's already messed up. And I'm like,
yeah.
And I just get out of my car and I'm already walking funny, So.
Yeah, back scares me. Back, knees, and neck. I guess shoulders too. There's some guys that have had bad shoulder injuries and had a surgery. But my fear is if I get injured, that same thing will happen with jiu-jitsu. I'll take 6-9 months off. I'll get up sick, and I'm obsessive, right? So that 6 or 9 months, you think I'm going to just not do anything At the same
You're
time
gonna
I was doing
find something
jiu-jitsu,
else, yeah.
I'm going to be finding something else. And what will happen is when I get better, I'll have all this momentum for whatever the next thing I'm obsessed about.
Yeah.
And then trying to go back to jiu-jitsu, and it's like, oh, I suck. All these people that I used to smash, now they're smashing me, and blah, blah. Screw it. Like, I know that will happen, which is why I've been so anal about the stretching, because I don't want to get injured.
You don't want to get injured, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to make jiu-jitsu a lifestyle. It's like, what I always tell people is it's like, it's not about being the best. It's just like finding that flow state and being on the mat, you know.
It's true.
Just making it a lifestyle, longevity. So,
But I'm a fickle partner. It's like I've left many hobbies that I was just as obsessed with as jiu-jitsu. So I can definitely leave jiu-jitsu as I've left. You know, I know it's a fear. And just like recently, I'm sure you've seen this. I was talking to a new guy that came into Lehigh Judo Club, and he's a little bit bigger. And I was like, yeah, we had this other guy that was really big when he first came in, and he dropped. I was trying to motivate him, and he dropped a bunch of weight, and he actually got really good. I think he's probably close to getting his blue belt. And then I was like, Danny, where's George been? I haven't seen him for a while. He probably won't listen. George or John, I meant. It's like, oh, he just said not all white belts make it to blue belt. Like he quit. I don't remember why. And it kind of like
bums you
another
out.
guy like really bummed me out because I really respected him because he was older. I think he was probably like 45.
Yeah.
And he came in to try to like change up because he was pretty big. And dude, he came for like maybe a year, a little bit more than a year, very consistently. Dropped a bunch of weight and started being a real problem.
Yeah.
Because he started getting some technique behind that weight. I let him
tough.
start in side control and be like, oh shit. Like, what if I don't know if I can let him start in side control anymore.
Yeah.
Because he's still pretty heavy, but now he knows how to use all that. And he knows how to transition and becomes a real problem. And I thought it was awesome. You know, and then he bails. And I know that could be me too. And that really goes to anything. Whether it's like, I went really hard on drums for a while. I wanted to be a snowboarder first. I realized real quick, though, I didn't have the natural talent that it took. That's a hard one.
Yeah.
I knew that was bad.
I think for snowboarding, it's more of just like a fearlessness and a lack of regard for your own personal health and well-being.
There's definitely that. But I also think there's an element of, I got to the point where I had the fearlessness, and I did make some good progress. But the problem is there was kids that had a much better knack, whether they did gymnastics as a kid, for being inverted and moving their body
in space,
and so
and air awareness.
Less reps to get to the point where they weren't getting hurt.
Yeah. So were you like a park rider or what?
Both, yeah. I tried everything. I wanted to be... and I taught... we knew this. You were at Sundance. I taught snowboarding at Sundance. Yeah. That's when I was still kind of like 17, 18. I knew by then I had already gotten hurt enough, and I'd already noticed... What I noticed really quickly was just, again, the amount of reps. I try something 100 times and get fucked up 50 of those times. Yeah. This kid tries it 6 times, gets hurt once, and he's got it.
Yeah.
You know? And like and some kids even more. Like I can outwork people, but the problem also with snowboarding was driving there. You're a kid, right? You can't drive. Yeah. Whose mom's going to take you to Park City? Whose mom's going to take you home?
Snowboarding and skiing are a rich kid's sport.
Yeah.
Can you be signed up for the Park City ski team or the snowbird ski team or whatever, you know? And do you have like, you know, a mom with a Range Rover who's going to take you up there every day or whatever?
Yeah.
All the new gear and this and that. And like, it is not cheap. I mean, so I worked at Sundance. I was a ski patroller at Sundance for several years, but Sundance is kind of the smaller...
It's a smaller resort.
Lower cost resort. It's kind of a locals resort in the area, and I see the prices for our ski team up there, and it's astronomical, man. It's absurd. It's like, how the hell do people afford this?
How are people doing this?
Plus, you got to drive your kid up there every day, and it's like, you know, it's up the canyon. It's out of the way from everything. It's just, and then you got to buy them gear, and you got to buy them winter clothes. You got to buy them, you know, the latest and greatest of everything, and it's just, I don't know how people afford it, man.
When you were at do a lot of guys game at Sundance? on their phones or something while you're killing time?
Oh yeah, man.
What?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like,
That's what I
big time.
figured.
Sitting in the top shack gaming. So I have one of my best friends in the world. Love this kid to death. And he was a fighter with me. His name's Trevor Mellon. And amazing fighter. You can look him up. He had a great record. And should have been in the UFC if it wasn't for
I've heard you talk about. Yeah, I've heard this
unfortunate
name
set
come
of
up.
circumstances. I really want him to teach at the gym. He's a good black belt. He just doesn't train really anymore, and it's kind of like what you're talking about. You know, he got married this last year. Super happy for him. You know, he's happy. He's doing well, but he's just kind of gotten out of the swing of jiu-jitsu and fighting, and it's been tough to get him back.
Hard to go back, yeah.
He's a hardcore gamer, man. You got to get him on sometime.
Do you think he'd come on?
Oh yeah!
Hell yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
What did he play Ski Shack days?
I don't know, but he was very angry about it, and he was taking all the bandwidth from our like free Wi-Fi or whatever.
Oh yeah, that
and
makes
he was
sense.
he has like a famously bad temper, so it was always like so funny. It'd be like in the top shack, you know, all the ski patrollers. We have to wait in a top shack, kind of like. Think of like firefighters waiting at a fire station. You have to be somewhere centralized and all together
in case something goes down. And then, you know, and obviously for skiing, we move one direction, we move downhill. So we have to be up there with our equipment. You know, one or two people can go out and ski, but the rest of us have to wait up there. And then if something goes down, we all have to leave. So we're just stuck in a shack pretty much most of the day. So how often would you have something go down where you had to leave the shack?
No, it depends on how busy it is. I mean, you'd have a couple days where nothing went down, and then suddenly you'd have a few days where you're out all day long. It's just one after another of bad stuff. So it just depends. But
needless to say, you have a lot of time.
Yeah, you have a lot of time. So people would game hardcore, but Trevor was like just famous for just going nuts, and he'd be screaming at his phone and throwing stuff around, and then he'd be like, my fucking game's lagging, everybody's on the goddamn Wi-Fi, give me your phone, Dayne, give me your phone, and he'd like turn off my Wi-Fi and like take everybody's phone, turn off their Wi-Fi, and then, you know, be swearing at his video game or whatever. But he's a character, man. Love the kid. Yeah, you got to have him on. He's hilarious, dude.
He's still gaming a lot, you think?
I don't know, man. I mean,
the wife shut that down.
Yeah, I doubt it, dude. I think he's probably still gaming, but he's like, yeah, he's doing good. He's married now and doing really good, but I haven't spent as much time with him this year as I normally do because, you know, I'm not skiing this year. I'm running the gym, so I'm not sure if he's still gaming hardcore or not. I know he was trying to kind of tone it down last year. He's getting a little out of hand. He has this, so, you know, he'd play on his computer, and he had this big screen TV, and we both started ski patrolling because we wanted to be firefighters, you know. So we went through the fire academy together, and I'd go over, and you know, in the fire academy we have knot tests, and you have to tie all these, you know, somewhat complex knots in a certain amount of time, and it's pretty difficult, you know. It's not that easy. And so anyway, one day Trevor was like trying to tie all these knots super quick, and he's getting super frustrated, and we were practicing in his house, and he got so pissed off that he takes this rope and just hucks it across the room and shatters his big screen TV that was like his gaming TV. So I was giving him a hard time about it.
I can feel his pain. I can definitely feel his pain because this TV is a replacement. So I have a TV, a gaming setup, and whatever. I was playing God of War. I have the same problem. Sometimes I get really pissed at video games, like really pissed.
If you're not getting pissed, you're not trying, man.
Yeah, like Mr. X. Yeah, and sometimes I rage quit a video game like Resident Evil 2. I was playing God of War, which is more up my style. Like it's very difficult, but not panic, just hard. Yeah. There's a optional boss called the Valkyrie Queen. She's like the last optional boss, and she's stupidly hard. And I had done like one session already. This is like night 2, and I'm probably like 15 or 20 tries in. Each try is like 4 to 6 minutes. Yeah. I've been there for a while, and I had my drum pad on my couch. I didn't throw anything, but I got her down like 2 or 3 times in a row, like the last little bit of life, right? And I fucked up right at the end, like 2 or 3 times in a row. And I just, motherfuckers, like slammed the couch with my fist, and it launched my drum pad off the couch directly into the TV. This is over Christmas break that I had got the day before for Christmas. Shattered my brand new TV.
Did you have any insurance on it or anything?
No, I have never broken anything in my life. So I've always, every time they ask insurance, like, hell no. I've never needed to use insurance once in my life, but this time
That's kind of a freak accident, though. Hitting the couch and having something.
I hit the couch and it flew off. So now there's a rule. My kids, like, there's no drum pads on the couch. I'm superstitious, and I ended up, luckily, like, I was in a good spot. I bought like the cheap Black Friday TV. It was like $250 for a 4K Samsung.
That's a nice TV, man.
But it was like actually kind of shitty. Like the TV
really?
sucked. But
you don't like it?
So then I'm like, well, I just went and bought like a legit TV.
Yeah.
But all in all, I just told myself, well, this TV just costs $200, $50 more than the price says. I'm just buying one TV. But I can feel his pain because I was so stoked on that TV, brand new TV, and got it because of a video game.
TV, yeah. Oh, man.
So I gotta have Trevor on so we can console our broken hearts.
Yeah, Trevor's funny, man. You'll love him. He's hilarious. Great fighter too. Great jiu-jitsu guy. You got to train with him.
I've heard not just you. I've heard that name come up.
Yeah,
before.
No, he was a big UFC prospect for the state. Kind of had some bad luck. Things didn't work out for him, but definitely super interesting guy. Big into video games. Loves his video games.
Did you guys ever play the UFC video games?
Never. I don't like that type of video game.
I haven't tried it either. I've always wondered.
I don't like sport video games. I just can't get into it.
I haven't played a lot of sports, but
Steven Seiler, he is a sport video gamer.
Is he a Madden guy? That's like the most
probably. He loves football, and so he was our other roommate. So me and Trevor lived together for a long time when we were fighting, and Seiler lived with us. He slept on our couch. But yeah, he was always playing the football video games. And
yeah, the guys that get into, I don't know a lot about it, but 2K and Madden, it seems that the kids that are into 2K and Madden, football or basketball, they get, I know a handful of dudes. My brother-in-law, a good friend of mine that's been on the podcast, Audio Tree, shout out to Hayne, they don't really play games, but they're religious about a sports game, and they buy it every year. It comes out,
really?
And they have a console just for 2K, just for Madden. Yeah, they get into it.
Man,
I always wondered if the UFC game was like semi-accurate, and then did you hear Max Holloway talk about the UFC game on his Rogan interview?
No,
I don't know if you caught that.
Hear it, no.
So he said I believe up until the Conor fight, and after he lost the Conor fight, he got a legitimate striking coach. He never had a striking coach.
Oh, really?
He said he would play the UFC video game and try to mimic the combos that worked on the video game. This is legit, real. You can watch it on Rogan. I'm thinking about Max Holloway and how chill he is, and just
amazing fight, amazing striker too.
And that's what's crazy. He's really good at striking.
Yeah,
but he did say that after the Conor loss, he knew that he needed to get to the next level.
Yeah,
he needed to bring someone in. But it's amazing that he got that far on just playing a video game.
Playing a video game. Yeah, that's ridiculous.
It is. When I heard that and even Rogan was like, "Wait, what? That sounds fake."
Played a video game. What the fuck?
He's like, "Yeah, man." And Max Holloway, like, "Yeah, cuz just play." That's what I did. And his story about like how he started fighting, he trained for like 2 or 3 times, like just tried it out, and they offered him a fight, and he's like, he was 16 and just like went for it, and his whole story is miraculous.
I'll have to listen to it, man.
It's good.
I listen to Rogan a lot. I love Rogan, but I usually skip the fighter podcast just because that's like my life, man.
You want to break from
that. And I want to break
from.
I want to listen to some nerdy science stuff or something. I want to just.
The science ones are my favorite.
They're my favorite for sure.
I think I've overdone Rogan a little bit. I'm starting to. It's nothing. I'm not knocking him. It's just kind of like you can only eat so much cheesecake before you want some apple pie or whatever.
Got to take a little break from it.
Yeah, but I do normally, if I see it's a guy with gray hair, I'm going to check this shit out. Like, this might be dope.
Do you watch him on YouTube? You don't listen to the podcast?
Which one?
Do you watch him on YouTube or you listen to the podcast?
I do that while I work. I'll usually have I kind of go back and forth. Sometimes if the podcast is like too good, it's distracting from work because I'll go over to YouTube and I'll end up like watching it for 15, 20 minutes. Like, oh shit, I'm not working. I'll do like the MMA ones or the comedians in the background while I'm working.
Yeah.
And sometimes after jiu-jitsu, I'll come back.
Stimulating.
Yeah, I'll watch. You know what's crazy about podcasts or just YouTube podcasts? There's been many, not just Rogan, some other ones, where instead of coming home and practicing drums or playing video games, I will sit and watch a podcast on YouTube for in like 2.5, like just an interview, and it's really entertaining. And if you would have said that when I was 15 or 30, or even said that not even as a teenager, but just said that in the 90s, you could just put an interview, a 3-hour interview, and people would watch it. Like, no, they wouldn't. That goes against all the rules. But it works. Like, I'll sit and I like them on YouTube.
A stimulating conversation. Yeah. I like it too, man. I mean, that's how I get through my drives. And
yeah, you have an hour drive.
I have an hour drive both ways, and I'm really used to it because I worked at Sundance before that, and that was even longer.
Is that your wife? You gotta.
Yeah, she's good. She's all right.
Sure, you're gonna be cool.
Yeah, she's okay. She'll be all right. She's
gonna listen to this and be like, "You bitch."
She's probably just about to get off work. She's a bartender, so I think she's actually out a little early tonight. So, yeah, she'll be cool. But what were we talking about? I totally spaced out all of a sudden.
What were we talking about?
Rogan and hour drive. Yeah, I listen to podcasts all the time and books on tape. Audible's my jam. So,
dude, what I know there's been a couple of times I've been to the gym. You played some music I liked. What music did you grow up listening to?
Oh man, everything. Yeah, I listen to a little bit of everything. I mean, I know we both like Tool.
Yeah.
We've talked about Tool before. You're going to go to their concert? They're coming again real soon. Right?
I got tickets for the...
You got tickets already?
Oh, you're not on Facebook?
No.
I don't think you're on Facebook. Man, I should have thought about you. I had an extra ticket, and I just gave it away.
Yeah. Well, I'll figure it out, man. We'll go. Yeah,
I bought 3 tickets because I was going to bring my wife. And she'll what's the word?
She'll tolerate.
She tolerates Tool because I like them. But the live show with the lasers and the visuals is so cool. And I showed her pictures from the last time, and she thought it looked awesome. I'm like, I'll take her, and maybe she'll like Tool a little bit more. But so I bought for me and my brother and my wife, and then she came to me a few days later and was like, to be honest, I think you should probably give that ticket to someone else.
Just not her thing.
I'm just not feeling it. So I offered it to one kid who's been on the podcast before, and then he shut me down. He's like, "Oh, I got to do work." I'm like, "Man, it's hard to give away a ticket."
Kidding,
and then I just posted on Facebook and like gave it to the first person who claimed it.
It's cool, yeah.
So too bad. I forgot. I should have given it to you, man. My bad.
What about? No worries, man. I mean, I'll get a ticket, dude. I mean, I missed the first one, so kind of scalpers got in ahead of me, but.
I did the first time I did the $500 full on VIP package. It's worth doing once. I don't know if I'd recommend it. This time I bought, I think they were $110. It's like in the back, but in the middle. Like it was decent seats.
What about like same genre, 9 Inch Nails? You into 9 Inch Nails at all?
I had a mixed relationship with 9 Inch Nails because this is the problem with music I ran into is even Tool I didn't get into until like my 20s.
Yeah.
Because I had I would judge bands based on the kids who liked them.
Yeah.
And so some of the kids that were like Tool heads and 9 Inch Nails heads, I liked Darkness and I liked the like heavy stuff. But those kids kind of skip like.
But if there's like a dork who is super into a band, then you associate that with.
Yeah, I would associate kids, they just kids that kind of like. Honestly, the best way to say is people who made me feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, the trench coat wearers.
Yeah, trench coat wearers, and like I worked with the kid. I made really good friends with one kid who was a 9 Inch Trent Reznor worshiper.
Yeah.
Eats a Pizza. I worked at Eats a Pizza on my first
awesome,
real job.
Wait, the one on by Ultimate Electronics in Orem?
It's like South Orem on State Street, kind of by the subway.
Yeah, so dude, Pedro had a gym right 2 doors down from that.
Really?
That was one of the first gyms I trained at.
I would have never noticed.
Yeah, it was called Lotus Blossom. It was a Taekwondo
Dude,
gym.
I do remember that.
Yeah. So that
I would have to walk by to take trash out.
Yeah, so Pedro had a gym there, and I was training, dude. I was training hard there, man.
Dang, small world.
Yeah, super small world, man. That's funny.
That place, by the way, Eats a Pizza. I don't get away. That place is sketch. So, my first job, that place was a front for a drug operation.
Really?
Yeah.
What kind
and
of
I was
drugs?
pretty naive. But I started figuring it out.
I remember they
like,
went out of business. We would go in there and eat after practice, and it was just like, how are they making money? Because I'm eating like 3 pizzas by myself. You know, I was like 17 or whatever.
I don't know if it was like a total front or a supplemental income or like how many people were involved. If like because the owner guy wouldn't necessarily come in, but the management was involved and like they were just like dealing out of.
Oh, really?
They're just dealing.
Like what type of drugs? Like bad drugs or just
you know what?
illegal
At that
drugs?
time, I didn't know anything. I mean, I was 16, still like ultra Mormon. But I do know that one time there was a van parked out front, and the manager went in, and they had like an orgy in the van.
Whoa!
And they were like smoking and stuff.
Holy
Like, it was in
shit.
the back. Like these guys went hard.
Sketchy, man.
They were. And now that I'm older, like I know they were doing coke. I don't know if they were dealing coke, and they were for sure dealing weed. At the time, weed was a lot bigger deal than it is now. That place was sketchy. How did we talk about Eats a Pizza? Shit, I don't know how we got onto the topic of Eats a Pizza. But
Trent
that
Reznor.
What? Go ahead.
Trent Reznor, 9 Inch Nails.
Oh yeah, a kid that worked there. Another young, naive. But he was this angry Mormon kid as well. But like he was. He just got dealt some bad cards, and he was angry, and he would just sit and like scream and yell and listen to Trent Reznor in his car before and after his shifts. And we were homies. But he also like creeped me out. Like, dude, he might snap and like he could kill me or anybody.
Up,
and he loved Trent. He was always talking about Trent Reznor. So
that was your first association.
That was my first association. My dad, even though he was insane Mormon, he used to be a rock star. He tried to be a rock star, didn't work out, went ultra religious, but he still kind of held on to that.
Yeah.
He became he's very more stoic and anti-music now. But when I grew up, he would give me tapes. He gave me 9 Inch Nails, Primus. Was a big deal. Really those two, 9 Inch Nails, Primus, Tool, 311, Mr. Bungle. And so I liked it. I knew my dad was I thought it was cool, right? Because my dad at the time, he still is like really religious, but I knew he had this like
this other side,
hidden rock star past he never talked about. We could never get him to talk about it because he did crazy shit, didn't want us to know about it. And I thought it was so cool, so I thought his music was cool. And he liked 9 Inch Nails, so I liked that a little bit. But then, kids. And then Tool heads, man. I get it now. Now I am the Tool head that used to annoy me. But growing up, I played drums. And all the music scene, the kids were just like, they worship Tool. And I'd be like, these guys are posers. I'm like, that band must be whatever. But I do remember hearing Lateralis. I was late. So Anima had already come out. When Lateralis came out, the kid who I didn't have a ton of respect for made us listen to it on our friend's home theater system, and I didn't want to admit that it was dope.
He didn't want to admit that he liked it
because this kid named Brian McQuay. I'm homies with him now, but at the time there was like drama, and I didn't think he was as cool as me. But damn, I heard The Grudge on which still might be my favorite Tool song of all time. That opening, and it just like hit, and in the back of my mind, I was like, "Fuck, he's right." Tool is dope as shit. Yeah, I loved Tool. But it took me a while. Did you ever get into Mars Volta?
No.
Did you do Perfect Circle?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Perfect Circle is a big one for me. The album 13th Step, more so than the first one, 3 Libras, I think.
3 Libras, yeah. I think 3 Libras was like one of the first CDs I ever bought.
You ever bought?
My first concert was a 9 Inch Nails concert, though.
Dude, that's a heavy first concert.
Yeah, it was a heavy first concert. But, my older cousin, my uncle, which I looked up to, I thought they were super cool. They were super into 9 Inch Nails. So, obviously I thought it was like the cool thing to do. And I've always loved them. I really like them. I really like Tool. But what's the best concert you've ever been to, man? Favorite concert?
Muse.
Muse?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I would say the best production might be either the recent Tool one, just because it was Tool, the stage production.
Huge venue.
Incubus, after Morning View came out, had a really good stage setup that was cool. But the reason I would say Muse is because I saw Muse it was their first American tour. They hadn't blown up yet, and I just had a friend that somehow was piped in, and I didn't even know who they were. And it was before Absolution, like that big breakout record came out. But they knew those songs, and they played a lot of the songs.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
And we were in the venue. It's a Salt Lake venue on the side stage, not the main stage. So there might have been 200 kids total.
That's awesome.
And it was like everything was close, and I didn't know anything about them other than my homies. Like, there's this band from Australia. Trust me, buy a ticket. We're going. Like, okay.
That's awesome.
And it just like I had never heard anything like someone. He has like opera style singing. Like really long, drawn out, and that mixed with like the bass player playing. Like, they played that song. I think it is Absolution on Absolution.
When I think of Muse, I instantly think of that song "Madness." That's like the song that I
Which
think
one?
Of. Madness.
Madness.
Yeah, Madness. I think it's called Madness.
Might be. I don't know. I don't know their discography super well.
I don't either, but here, I'll look it up. Maybe I'm.
Mad. Oh, it is Mad. Is it slower?
Yeah, by Muse. Yeah,
you're probably right, dude. I don't know.
Yeah. No, it's a good song, man. Madness by Muse.
Yeah, that concert was awesome. It was just blew my mind because I didn't know what to expect.
Yeah,
and at the time it was a very fresh sound.
And it's cool to like discover a band before they're big.
Yes.
So what were you gonna say? You just remembered a good one.
Oh, Rat-a-tat.
Rat-a-tat, yeah, that's.
You ever listen to Rat-a-tat?
Not really, man. I've never really.
You've never heard of Rat-a-tat?
I've heard of them, but I've never really gotten into them.
I don't know if they've aged that well, but at the time, yeah, that was probably my first. Oh man, I've had a lot of music obsessions, but they inspired me. I tried to start a record label and did electronic music and toured around and made some progress in that. And one of the groups that really inspired me to make music was Rat-a-tat, and seeing them live. I think I was 18. So also it's like the age from like 10, 11 to 18 is like this magical age where things they're just more epic. They get into your DNA. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think you're more easily influenced. And
who?
You're more easily influenced.
Yeah, more easily influenced.
So, yeah. I guess it kind of sets that trajectory, like we were talking about with video games. Kind of defines you and sets the stage for your tastes later on.
That's crazy. You were into that heavy of music. Did your parents have any issues with music? Like, this is the devil's music.
No, my parents were cool with music, man. I remember my cousin trying to get into Eminem, and his mom kind of had a problem with it. But no, as far as music, like, I was into really heavy music, and my parents were cool with it.
Like abnormally angry?
No, I just liked heavy music.
You're kind of like me. I'm not angry, but I just like the.
Yeah, I just like the sound of it. I got into like really hardcore for a while, like when I was, later high school days. Like I really liked like Hatebreed, Disturbed.
Oh, you went that direction. I see.
And like Tear. Have you ever heard Tear? Like super hardcore. I like those guys. I still like those guys. It's just kind of wears me out a little too much now, but I still like them. Every once in a while I'll get in that mood again. But
yeah, this comes into video game. I think you can link this back to video games as well. I love heavy music, but when it's screaming and heavy all the time, you get like numb to it. Yeah, and it just it doesn't carry. So that's part of the reason why I think Tool has aged well for me is the balance.
Yeah, they have a good balance.
They have a good balance overall, and like so what will end up happening is I have a playlist and I can do like one or two songs that are just full in your face. It's like, oh man, I gotta take a break, bro.
I remember being a kid and just like listening to that stuff all the time. Just like, I feel exhausted, but I liked it. So
yeah, there's more angst as a kid, so I guess you need to get it out.
I've always loved Rob Zombie too. Have you ever been into Rob Zombie? Oh yeah, that's the best concert I've ever heard. By the way,
I could see that being an amazing
twice,
concert.
Man. I saw him at the Saltaire absolutely incredible, dude. He puts on such a good show. And then I saw him with Ozzy. I think he opened for Ozzy. I think it was the Maverick Center a long time ago. But yeah, amazing show, man. He's such a good live performer.
I could see that. I've never seen him live, but he was on Rogan as well. Did you listen to that one?
I did listen to that one.
That one, he talks about. I have some memories of him talking about developing his live show, and just based on that interview and how cool of a dude he seemed to be. When you said that, I'm like, yeah, I could see him having a really good live show. Yeah,
incredible, man. Absolutely incredible. I was blown away. I almost regret that it was like, I guess, it goes back and forth. It's like what you're saying. I was going to say, I almost regret that I was so young because I didn't know how to appreciate what an amazing live show I was seeing. But at the same time, I think it kind of set the stage for a lot of things, and it was more epic because I was young. But yeah, incredible performer, man.
Yeah, you went straight to the darkness. I liked the darkness and the heavy stuff. Obviously, we talked about some people gave me bad impressions, but I also had an element of, like, Rob Zombie in particular. I thought he was satanic, right? I was still like really religious, and so that stuff kind of scared me because I grew up like a sort of a superstitious belief that if you watch and consume movies and music that are like related to satanic type things,
doesn't invite the spirit
in. You're opening the doorways, right? But if you stay away from that stuff, you'll never be in danger of any sort of demonic interruption.
Yeah.
So I remember thinking like he had big dreads. It's like he had these dope dreads, and I remember being intrigued about it, but then scared, and so I would like listen to songs. I definitely would never. I would like sometimes watch some music videos tentatively. Did you ever watch The Box growing up? I think
The Box.
You're only a couple years younger than me.
No,
There was
I don't remember that.
Before cable. I never had cable. My grandma did, but we didn't have it. But there was like your regular channels 1 through 13, or like, and then there was like channel 30, which was CW or WB. And then channel 58 for a while. This random channel was The Box. And it would just loop previews of music videos all day, and people called in and ordered a music video, and then you could watch. So it was all based on people calling in and paying money. I don't know how long it lasted.
I've never seen that. I've never heard
really
that before. Yeah.
But yeah, so they would have like a different set of music videos that were sort of like the show reel.
Yeah.
It would like cut between different music videos, and they would run the ad, call in, and here's the popular ones and the prices, and they would have a Rob Zombie music video as part of it. But I would never watch the whole music video, so that meant that I wasn't inviting any demons.
Exactly,
I wasn't. That's how I justified it. Yeah. It was The Box. So I got a little bit of Rob Zombie love from The Box, but yeah, he seems like a really cool dude. Do you like Du hast mich, that band?
Rammstein, yeah.
Seems like
I loved
that'd be up your alley.
Yeah, that was up
Yeah.
my alley, yeah. I really liked super heavy stuff when I was a kid, man. I don't know, all the really heavy bands. And
the Pedro and his wife, the Vanya, the badass chick, purple belt, Rammstein's her favorite band.
Oh, really? Yeah.
I would never guess that.
Firefly. Yeah, I remember
Loved
those
it.
songs, yeah. Yeah, I remember playing that like early when I was like learning to snowboard and stuff. I remember listening to that on my Walkman in my jacket.
What would be... I want to do a couple movies, and we'll probably wrap it up because your wife keeps calling. What movie... We'll ask a movie and a music and a video game question. But I want it to be... it's a 2-part question for each one, so 3 times 2, 6 total answers. I'm prepping you for 6 answers. Movie, music, and video game. Each one not only is what would be the most impactful, like not necessarily the greatest, but I guess your personal greatest for each one, and why. Starting with movies, because we haven't talked about any movies.
Man, that's tough.
Which one is...
I'm a movie guy.
Got into the DNA of Dayne the most.
Dude, that's huge. There's so many freaking movies. All right, man.
Hot seat.
Indiana Jones.
Really? Which one?
Last Crusade.
Last Crusade.
Yeah.
Why? What about that movie?
Just a sense of adventure, man. Love Indiana Jones. Just a sense of adventure and discovery. it's just a movie I grew up on. You know.
Were you? I did not see the newest one, but were you as disappointed as everyone else?
Nah, I mean, I thought it was a fun throwback. I wasn't that disappointed. I mean, yeah, you know, it wasn't as great as the original trilogy, but I enjoyed it. I thought it was a fun throwback. I didn't have a huge problem with it like everybody else seemed to. But
Album.
Album.
Yeah,
oh,
no,
man.
I should say this. That's a better question. It doesn't have to be artist. Maybe we could do artist, and if it's separate, like best, well, not best, most formative album to your...
Most formative album. Can I do a soundtrack?
You can do soundtrack for sure.
Dude.
Even better.
Queen of the Damned. Great
Queen of the
soundtrack,
Damned.
dude.
Is that the Aaliyah movie?
Yeah, yep.
Ooh, I never
Good
saw
movie,
that.
man. Oh, it's a great
Should I
movie.
see
Yeah,
that?
you got to watch it. Did you ever read any Anne Rice books?
No.
You got to read some Anne Rice books, man.
So you like the darkness when it comes to movies, too.
I guess so. I didn't realize I was this dark until this podcast.
Queen of the Damned. That was
no, it's a good book, man.
Definitely not allowed
Good
in my
book, good
household
movie.
to be watched.
Yeah, I think you'd like it. But it's a great soundtrack, man.
Really?
Great
What
soundtrack.
what style would you describe the soundtrack?
I don't know. Kind of along the same lines as
Like heavy cinematic?
yeah, heavy rock. You know, it's hard rock.
Queen of the Damned. Aaliyah must have only been because she died in that plane wreck when she was pretty young.
Yeah. I don't know how long.
Is she the
before it
one
was.
that had the relationship with R. Kelly? Or
I don't remember. I know that she died in a plane crash, and I know that she was in Queen of the Damned. That's all I know
that's
about
all
her.
you know. And she
the
was in
extent of my
TLC.
knowledge.
That was her start, right?
I'm
that
not even sure.
Black, like R&B black chick
Yeah.
group. I think it's Don't Go Chasing
Was she in
Waterfalls.
TLC? I didn't even know that.
I
Yeah.
think she was in TLC. I could be. People are probably out there like, you dumbass. I don't know. I thought she was in TLC. She's also the one. There's an R. Kelly documentary about. I think it's Aaliyah about a girl after he already became famous. He sort of like was her coach. You know, like kind of like helped her come up in the music industry.
Yeah.
But ended up having relationships with, and she was like 14 and whatever.
Oof, that's trouble.
There's a gnarly documentary. I think it was her, but I could be wrong. All right, so Queen of the Damned. That's awesome because I would have never remembered that movie. But as soon as you said it, I remember the box art, the cover art. She's like looking up, and she's hot, and it's definitely evil, and it's definitely rated R. And my parents definitely would have been like, hell no.
Go
I do
listen
remember
to the
that.
soundtrack, man. It's a great
Good soundtrack.
Oh yeah, awesome
All right.
soundtrack.
Most formative game, but you can't say Resident Evil 2 because we already talked about it.
Oh man, I gotta think now. Man, I guess Tomb Raider. Yeah,
Which one?
Tomb Raider. Yeah.
Tomb Raider, the first one?
I'm not sure which one. Let's say which is the one where you can like go in her house and do all the training in the mansion, the
She has
Croft
the
mansion.
pool.
Yeah, she
Yeah,
has
yeah.
the pool and stuff. Is that number 2?
I think it's number 2. I know what
Yeah.
you're talking about, though.
Yeah, I remember. That was a big game for me. I think it's kind of. I really liked adventure games and travel games and.
Yeah, Indiana Jones and Tomb Raider.
Exactly, they kind of
some
fit
connection
together.
there.
Yeah, I had my actually not this last Halloween, but the Halloween before. I had my wife be Lara Croft, and I was Indiana Jones. We're the adventure couple, so fits right in that those would be the two.
I think I saw that. I stalked your. Somehow, Instagram suggested your non-Agema Instagram account, and I stalked it, and I saw some Halloween pictures. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a while ago now, but it was fun.
Dang, dude. All right, so give us a breakdown on what's coming up. Does anyone have any fights coming up for Agema? Where can people check things out?
Yeah, I've got several fighters coming up. They'll be on the local fights. Still Fist fight on April 4th. I have several fighters on that show. Go to our website, agemamma.com. Check us out on Instagram. You'll find us. Thanks for having me
located
on, man. I
Provo
appreciate you.
Town Center. It is in the mall.
It is in the mall.
If my first time I could try a 6 a.m. class, and I was like looking at Google Maps, dude, there's no way that this gym is in the mall. The mall's not even open. Like, it's impossible. And then I ended up calling the phone number on the Google listing, which I think is just your wife's cell phone.
Yeah, it's just my wife's cell phone. But.
And she's like, wait, what? I'm like, hey, I'm just, is this Agema? She's like, wait, oh, yeah. Like, are you guys in the mall? Yeah, so you're actually in the Provo
Mall.
Weird.
It's weird to be in the mall, but it works out.
It actually, at first I thought it was weird. Now I think it's awesome.
Yeah, it's cool. You get
It's
a lot
cool.
of walk
People
by
come by.
and...
You have it's like you have morning, midday, night classes. They have a Friday night class, which a lot of gyms don't. Saturday class, Sunday open mat, which is my personal favorite.
Me too, man.
I love the open mat.
Yeah, I love the open mat. I just like, it's just chill. It's like laid back, and it's just guys who want to kind of like listen to music and train, and I don't have to teach.
And it's all the dudes that are addicted.
Yeah, exactly.
Only like really addicted guys are going to show up on a Sunday.
Yeah, it's fun though.
It's really chill. Awesome facility. For those of you into jiu-jitsu, it's kind of like art of jiu-jitsu. Everything's white. Looks really clean.
Pain in the ass, man.
Dayne's way nicer though. He doesn't force everyone to wear white gis. And makes his fighters clean the mat so it keeps that sparkling white facade. I'll put links in the podcast description to all the stuff, but if you're interested in trying it out, it's a great place. I think I was telling this to, I think his name's Thomas, because he said he trained at Lehigh Judo with Chris Kennedy and that crew before.
Thomas Harper?
Thomas Harper, his purple belt.
Good guy, yeah.
Yeah. We were talking about just gyms in general, and we were both agreeing. You might have the nicest mats in Utah.
I appreciate it, man.
I think you do, because
you're the only one with the time.
You're the only one with the like the height. Everything's white, right? But you have the Olympic.
Oh yeah, it's like kind of a spring floor.
Spring floor.
It's called like a
raised.
judo subfloor.
Yeah.
So it gives you like a little bit of bounce. So you have the cushion of the mat, just the pad of the mat, and then underneath there's foam that kind of has like the whole floor will move as one. So if you get thrown hard or something, it gives a little bit, which is huge.
It's awesome. Yeah, the mat's super nice. It's probably the biggest, not the biggest space, but it's pretty big. I've never been, the only other gym that's pretty well known, I've never been to Unified, but I've seen pictures.
Great gym, man. You got to come with me to Unified one of these days. That's where you came up, right? Sort of. It was before it was Unified. So when Unified used to be Pedro's gym, and then, the guys he passed on to, that it eventually became Unified. So yeah, I came up there, and those guys are great guys. It's probably the highest concentration of like good competitive black belts in the state.
Definitely.
So you will get some amazing rolls there. There's some killers there, and they're all just super nice, humble dudes. Like, yeah, we should go up there and roll sometime.
I should check it out. I've seen pictures. It looks like a nice space with good mats. I have rolled with the Southworth brothers at your open mat.
Yeah, that's their gym. That's their home gym, And
that went exactly how you'd expect, just utter destruction.
Yeah, South brothers are
on my
awesome,
behalf.
man.
But I was really impressed with, I think I mentioned this to you before, the one that's taller and leaner.
Jason.
Yeah. He, how relaxed and playful, but still sharp everything was.
Very, very smooth.
Yeah.
So you got to roll with, the South brothers are amazing. Jake and Jason, and then Damon Morgan. I always tell everybody I think Damon is probably the best competitor in the state. Just amazing jiu-jitsu guy, and he's small. He's probably 140 or so. And then the two owners of the gym are Johnny Carl Quest and James Gardner, two guys that I grew up looking up to. Just amazing jiu-jitsu guys that are just incredible at what they do. Absolute Jedis. So
that's Danny says the same thing. He says, I think Unified's probably, like, as far as concentration of talent,
for sure,
best gym in the state. Yeah. They're just a little too far for me to go daily, but
absolutely.
You guys are nice and close. Then you have the best mats. The fact that there's a Sunday open mat, for me that was a big deal, because I was driving. No offense to those who go to the West Valley open mat, but I go to Mafu's open mat. But I'm already getting away with that much jiu-jitsu already with my wife, and then I'm gone all day Sunday. And she's stuck with the kids.
Drive.
By the time I drive up there, roll, chit-chat with people, and drive back, she's like, "Oh, I didn't know you were going to have a free weekend on Sunday." So yours is nice. I can get down there. I can roll. I can come back.
Hey, you can bring the wife and kids and have them go to the
I
mall.
gotta
Have
bring
them go to
more.
the food court.
I've been trying hard to get her to try, but she is just not interested. So I do beat the shit out of my kids on this mat. I'm trying to I'll roll with them and
Condition them up,
condition them, like
toughen them up a
smash
little
their
bit.
faces, I grind them. I'm like trying to get them ready. Yeah, I'll definitely bring them in. I was asking, how old are the youngest kids that come to your kids' classes?
4. Yeah.
4.
Usually 4.5. It's got to be a pretty mature 4-year-old. Otherwise, it's just
Chaos.
It's just herding cats,
Yeah.
So
I need to bring my oldest. She's 4 to a class and see.
have her come try one, see how she does. If you need to take another couple months, but just come try one, man. You know?
What times are your kids' classes?
4:30 Monday through Thursday. So
Run through your schedule real quick so people know.
So we do morning classes Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 6:30 a.m. We have noon classes every day. Sunday's an open mat. It's not a class at noon. Saturday is sparring at 11 actually, and classes at 10. So Saturday's the only day we don't have a noon class, and then we have night classes. We have either striking or basic jiu-jitsu every weeknight at 5:30, and then jiu-jitsu class every weeknight at 6:30.
Yeah.
Friday is competition team. Oh, and Thursdays are a little different. So jiu-jitsu starts at 5:30, but we have wrestling. So we have Justin Reese. He's an amazing wrestling coach. Was a world team member in Greco and was an Olympic alternate, and just this incredible wrestler. So like a really, really well-respected guy in the world of wrestling. And, he's a really great guy. And he teaches wrestling for us on Thursday nights at 7. So he's a great guy to learn from. And a hell of a role, man.
The Friday competition class. I like that. I can hit
Friday's fun, yeah. Friday's a fun class, so.
He's dope. I'm going to try to get Danny on soon so I can have back-to-back gym owners.
Back-to-back
gym
owners. I thought you just had Danny on.
I sent both of you guys. I've been just hassling both of you. I actually hassled him last night after we were training. He wasn't rolling because what was his problem? Dang it, I can't remember. He had something happened to him. He wasn't rolling, and we were walking out of class, and I'm like, hey, well, when are you going to come to the podcast? And whatever the reason he wasn't rolling was keeping him from the podcast. I don't know why, I can't remember. But then I hit him with a double shot. I was like, yo, Dayne's coming on my podcast tomorrow. Where you at, Danny? Why is Dayne? The other gym owner's coming. What's up? And he's like, okay, well, I saw a twinkle in his eye, like maybe I might be able to get him to come on.
Get that competitive twinge going on.
Yeah, you guys are almost the same person, so it cracks me up.
I don't know Danny super well, but every time I've had an interaction with him, he just seems like an awesome dude, man. I'd love to get to know him better. I want to hit you guys' what is it, a Thursday class they're invited me to?
I've been trying to recruit people to come try, just roll through on Thursday.
I need to do it, man.
At Agema, you're so chill with people coming and going. I'm like, I want to, you guys should come on a Thursday night and get a chance.
I'd love to, man. I'd love to.
Sorry to interrupt you. Who's the kid he was here today? He's a little bit skinnier and he loves to play butterfly guard. He's small.
Jonathan.
Yeah.
Is that who you're talking about? Jonathan?
I don't know. He's like 140 maybe.
Yeah. Was he in fight team?
He was fight team tonight.
Yeah. Yeah, that's Jonathan.
I was telling him, he's like, yeah, I love playing butterfly guard. It's fun. You know how to deal with that. And I'm like, that's because there's a bunch of butterfly guard nerds at Lehigh, and you should definitely come hang out. Like, you would make butterfly buddies instantaneously.
Butterfly buddies.
Yeah, it sounds almost gay, kind of like butt buddies.
Because they're all watching Marcelo Garcia clips, man.
Danny loves butterfly. There's I don't know if you know Brian Baker.
He teaches
at
Deep Half. Yeah,
Deep Half now.
I've heard of him. I've actually never met him. I only know him through reputation, but I'd love to get some rolls in with him. He seems like a good guy. So
he's got a good butterfly game. He was early. I think he's definitely older than me, so he's older than you. He was in the competitions. When he lived in Seattle, so it would have been like late '90s, early 2000s. Yeah. He did a lot of competing then. Great butterfly guard. But yeah, you guys need to roll through on a Thursday night.
I think
there's, depending on the night, you might get like there's JT, who's you there, Danny, Jorge, the new black belt, Brandon, Justin's brother, Brandon Ruiz, is there sometimes. He's terrifying. I'd love to watch you survive.
Huge guy.
Rolling with him.
Yeah.
He's a
watch
big.
me get crushed.
He's a big man.
Yeah.
He's so big.
He's a lot of guy to.
There's a guy, Wade. You know Wade Alexander. I think we've talked about Wade. No, Wade knows Jason Howard.
Yeah,
I'm getting it mixed
Wade.
up. He's like 245, 250.
Oh, wow.
And a black belt. Like
Jeez.
so he knows what he's doing, and he's very strong. And I would love to watch you roll.
It's a scary combination, right?
Yeah. You got to come try it out, man. I've been trying to preach. It doesn't mean you got to come join, but I think it'd also be good. Everyone there likes rolling with new people.
Yeah.
Everyone likes to roll with new people. It's like dating. You don't want to just get with the same person all the time.
Well, it's good to
You want
just
some variety.
build the jiu-jitsu community.
Yeah.
And I like knowing people. I go to Unified all the time. I was at the pit today. I dropped into the pit this morning and worked with some guys over there. We're affiliates with the pit, so.
Yeah, I noticed you mentioned that. Explain what that, because I don't even know what that really means.
So, John Hackelman is the owner of the pit, and he has affiliations all over the U.S. I mentioned him earlier. He's one of my coaches. He was Ramsey's coach as well. So Ramsey operates the pit SLC. Agema is a pit affiliate. We're not, I kind of wanted to do my own name, and the affiliation came after we were already established. So we're not named the pit, but we are a pit affiliate. So, a lot of my fighters like Mitch and Sula and Marco, they all train up there, but they also train at Agema. So,
what does that mean, like for a person who goes? Like, is there any benefit to a member by you being an affiliate?
I'm sure there is, but me and Ramsey have got to sit down and work that
you
out
dialed
together.
It down yet?
We haven't really dialed it down. We just kind of,
So just negotiate. Yo, what do I get?
Yeah,
Dayne Ramsey, hook me up.
I'm sure we'll figure something out together, but it just hasn't come up yet, so.
Sweet, man. Check out Agema. Thank you so much for coming on. I'll put all the links in the description. I'll talk to you guys later. See ya. Oh, shit. You actually listened to the entirety of the podcast. What the fuck is wrong with you? Why? Why would you listen to my dumb ass talking to a cool ass like Dayne for, I think it was an hour and a half, 2.5 hours. Who knows? Who knows? Look, I'm recording this outro at the same time that I recorded the intro, which means I'm drunk as shit. I kind of skimmed over the podcast with Dayne. I thought it was funny. I thought we had good energy. I am working on being a better podcast interviewer. Working on things like that. Interviewer. How clumsy was that shit? So I'm working on this shit. It's a work in progress. It's like a rough stone rolling for my Mormon friends. You might get that reference. But I actually am a rough stone rolling. That's just not an excuse to sort of justify all the dirty shit that Joseph Smith did. Ooh, sorry about that. If you're into Joseph Smith, I'm just shooting the shit. More power to you. I don't really give a shit. But what am I supposed to be saying in this outro? Oh, I'm supposed to be saying Dayne is awesome. Check his shit out. I put all the all the links in the podcast description. And next week we have Todd Robbins on the podcast. He was actually recorded a couple weeks ago. Todd Robbins is one half of Kuma Films, a prolific YouTube channel. He's also a professional stuntman, does stunts for film, TVs, and TVs. Jesus, I'm so terrible at talking sometimes. Film and TV, and I believe he's worked on some video games. Actually, I don't think he's worked on some video games. He would have told me if he worked on some video games, but I know he's been on a bunch of film, movies, and TV shows. He was just shooting a stunt for a Hannah-like ripoff. You know that kind of, what you would call it, like thriller, where a Russian Secret Service program where they have a bunch of girls for some reason trained to be badasses, and one of them escapes. Her name was Hannah. They kind of have a remix version of that premise, and he was shooting some stunts for it, getting blown up and getting some wire pulls. He's on the podcast next week. He's a badass. Check out Kuma Films. Check out his reels. If you're into film for whatever reason, you need a stunt man, hit him up. Dayne Thanks again for being on the podcast. If you're interested in martial arts in any way, shape, or form, and you're located in Utah, I would check out Agema. They are badass if you're into striking, if you're into grappling, into wrestling, kickboxing, Muay Thai, boxing, whatever. Dayne and his staff have got you covered. They're chill as shit. Like you heard in the beginning of the podcast, they don't do contracts. They're not out to fuck you over. They're not out to take your money. Dayne is just a legitimate good dude that's trying to give back to the martial arts community because, I mean, people who get into that shit, it's like almost a religion. It kind of is a religion. That's why people get weird about things like if you say jits or BJJJ. BJ. Woo! I should just wrap this shit up as soon as possible. Dayne is cool. If you're interested in martial arts, check his school out. He's got a bunch of fighters. Steel Fist is a local MMA promotion. A bunch of his fighters are fighting recently. I will put links in the podcast description as well. My grammar is going out the window. That is a sign for me to sign off. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. And if you share, like, subscribe, spread the good news of the Agema Army's gospel. The gods will bless you. I say these things in their name. Miyamoto the Father, Kojima the Son, and Carmack the Holy Ghost in their holy names. I will see you next week. Love you. Bye.